Chapter 667. The World Society of the Ancient Heaven sect was filled with people who wanted to join. Let's not talk about the endless stream of outer sect disciples joining the World Guild, even the number of inner sect disciples joining the guild was numerous. Without a doubt, the World Society that was established in a short period of time had become the most popular faction in the Ancient Heaven sect. Everyone knew that it was because of Du Xiaofu that the World Society was able to develop in such a manner. Everyone who joined the World Society came for Du Xiaofu. I knew that Big Brother would win. In a side hall, Judge Hao was very happy. With Du Xiaofu's victory, he also made a huge profit. His value increased by several times. I wonder how the president is doing. There has been no news for 5 days. Mu Jiejia was very worried. With the strong cultivators of the Manchu taking care of him, he will be fine. Qiao Yingmeng wasn't too worried. However, she was worried about the World Society. There have been too many people joining the World Society recently. We have developed too quickly and our foundation isn't stable. I'm afraid that we won't be able to compete with the factions in the Manchu. Hearing this, Mo1, who rarely spoke, frowned and said, the people who joined the World Society all joined because of the president. If anything happens in the World Society will be on the verge of collapse. These problems can't be solved in a short period of time. When the time comes, let's wait for the president's opinion. I believe he will have a solution. Qiao Yingmeng said. She couldn't think of a good solution for now. In the Ancient Heaven sect, the night was as silent as water. The earth was in a deep sleep. An ancient aura spread out and the world seemed to be silent. In a courtyard on a tall mountain peak, Yu Wanli and Elder Gu Qingyang were quietly standing in a room. Master, how is little junior brother? Looking at Du Xiaofu who was still sleeping on the bed, Yu Wanli's eyes were filled with worry. He asked Elder Gu Qingyang, it's already the 7th day. Little junior brother won't have any problems, right? Your martial uncles and martial uncles have already come to examine him. Your junior brother is fine, he's just exhausted. However, there are many secrets in his body that might affect your junior brother. Your martial uncles and martial uncles don't dare to examine him too deeply. However, I believe there won't be any problems. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Wanli. That's good. Yu Wanli editor, Cloud. Then he looked at Elder Gu Qingyang and Cloud. Gu Qingyang, Elder Gu Qingyang, Elder Gu Qingyang. Your junior brother's talent is monstrous. I really want him to stay in the sect, but, Elder Gu Qingyang softly sighed. A moment later, he softly said, perhaps they are right. If it is truly for the sake of your little junior brother and the entire Ancient Heaven sect, I'm afraid that I will have no choice but to give up this treasure. Time slowly passed, and the Ancient Heaven sect was as usual. The Manchu disciples continued to cultivate in seclusion, and the disciples continued to comprehend in various places. Every month, the new and old disciples would have deacons and elders who would regularly explain cultivation and dispel the various obstacles in cultivation. For all the disciples, this was a great benefit. 10 days had passed. During these 10 days, some things had happened. Following the conclusion of the battle between the new inner sect disciples, the new disciples began to enter the bronze ranking. As for the bronze ranking that Yin Machin and the others occupied, it rose to the silver ranking. The disciples who were originally on the silver roll also entered the gold roll. It was said that Yin Machin and the other rankers on the silver roll also had to undergo a rather cruel training session with the original rankers on the silver roll. It would only end after 7 days. As for the process and results of the training, very few of the new inner sect disciples knew about it. As for the first rankers on the gold roll, they could be considered to have achieved some success. It was said that some stayed in the Manchu, while others were arranged by the Manchu to various empires within the Ancient Heaven sect. There were also those who stayed in the Manchu to become deacons, while others chose to continue cultivating in seclusion. Of course, at least half of them left the Ancient Heaven sect. Some needed to return to their families or factions to serve, while others went outside the ancient heaven sect to temper themselves. Although it was said that the 9 great factions controlled the entire central province, in reality, there were still many barren lands, vast mountains, and ancient forests, as well as all kinds of dangerous places. Those places were all heavens for cultivators to temper themselves, and there were many legendary places of fortune. Those places were prosperous and chaotic, and even the 9 great factions felt that there were few places where they could interfere. The new inner sect disciples were qualified to enter the ancient bronze space, but they needed the ancient bronze talisman. It was said that there were many places of enlightenment in the ancient bronze space, and it was one of the core areas of the ancient heaven sect. Only the inner sect disciples of the ancient heaven sect could set foot in there. The rankings on the bronze roll had already been announced in the Manchu. The top 16 were all ranked according to the results of the competition on the Tianwu Square 10 days ago. Du Xiaofu was first on the bronze roll, and Sima Muhan was second. As for the rankings after the 16th place, all the disciples had to go to the Tianwu Square to compete for the rest of their lives. In a few days, a new bronze roll had also appeared in the ancient heaven sect. Master, third senior brother, on the evening of the 10th day, Du Xiaofu woke up and opened his eyes. He immediately saw his master, elder Gu Qingyang, and his third senior brother, Yu Wanli, in front of him. Seeing the worry in the eyes of her master and third senior brother, she couldn't help but feel a wave of warmth in her heart. Kid, you're finally awake. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had woken up, elder Gu Qingyang finally let go of his worries. Little junior brother, if you didn't wake up, we would have been worried. Yu Wanli immediately supported Du Xiaofu, who was lying on the bed, with a faint smile on his face. Disciple is at fault for making master and third senior brother worry. With Yu Wanli's help, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the bed. Feeling that the purple gold heavenly tower was still on his back, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. Don't be so courteous. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu, the experts of the Manchu have already examined you. They said that you should be fine. You've only used too much energy, but it's not a big problem. Okay. Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at the room. At this time, he was in his own courtyard. His master and third senior brother should have escorted him back. Then, he felt that there was nothing wrong with his body other than his injuries. Since you're awake, you should be fine. Take your time to recover. The sect master should be looking for you. After Elder Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu, he left a lot of elixirs and left with Yu Wanli, leaving Du Xiaofu alone to recover. Du Xiaofu formed a seal and carefully felt the situation in his body. He walked out of the room and activated the talisman array that he had arranged earlier. Then, he returned to his room and called out the ancient desolate space. In the misty ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu really needed to recover. After stuffing a lot of elixirs and elixirs into his mouth, he began to form hand seals to regulate his breathing. Walala, after a while, Du Xiaofu's body was shrouded in a layer of faint golden light. 2 days in the outside world were 20 days in the ancient desolate space. In the misty ancient desolate space, a dazzling golden light shone. A figure was sitting cross-legged. His face was rosy and his breathing was even. Under the golden light, his aura was domineering. With 10 times the time, it was enough for Du Xiaofu's injuries to recover. Du Xiaofu cultivated the cultivation method of the golden-winged great rock. In addition to the strength of his body, Du Xiaofu had spent 20 days in the desolate ancient space and used many medicinal pills to heal himself. Not only had his injuries healed completely, but even his aura had become much stronger than before. As Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seal, the golden halo surrounding him began to gradually shrink. In the end, it was like a sliver of golden spirit snake energy that mysteriously drilled into his body. His tightly shut eyes also suddenly opened. Chi-chi, 2 rays of light shot out from his pale golden eyes. An ancient and domineering aura swept out from his body, causing the misty space to tremble. Who? He spat out a mouthful of turbid air. On his resolute and determined face, the golden light in his eyes retracted. Then, they became clear and deep. "I've finally recovered," feeling everything in his body, Du Xiaofu smiled and stretched lazily. All the bones in his body started to crackle. Inside the divine watchtower, the profound energy was full and dense, and an indescribable sense of comfort crawled all over his body. "Your injuries this time were not light. Was the opponent very strong?" At this moment, Zhen Qingquan's voice sounded. Not far from the space, a small bronze pagoda was suffused with flowing light. A smoke-like fluctuation spread out from the small pagoda. Finally, it condensed into Zhen Qingquan's figure. As his voice fell, Zhen Qingquan's wretched figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. His cheeks were fat, his eyebrows were inverted, and his eyes were triangular. However, after Du Xiaofu got used to it, he felt a warm and intimate feeling. That girl is too terrifying. Her meridian spirit is a stalk of grass. Her martial vein is also different. It's full of vitality and terrifying power. Du Xiaofu immediately told Zhen Qingquan about Sima Muhan's situation. Chapter 668. If I'm not wrong, it should be the grass of immortality and the green wood vein spirit. I didn't expect that girl to be so talented. After hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Zhen Qingquan was also shocked. He said, "The grass of immortality belongs to the earth vein spirit. It's much stronger than the beast vein spirit. Even the top beasts on the heavenly beast ranking can't compare to the earth vein spirit. Unless it's an immemorial beast descendant. As for the green wood vein, according to what you said, the girl should have merged with the green wood vein. She has the human emperor natural disposition. That girl is indeed very strong." "What is the earth vein spirit and the human emperor natural disposition?" Du Xiaofu asked. This was the first time he heard about the earth vein spirit and the human emperor natural disposition. Zhen Qingquan looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, "Do you know about the monster race?" "I know a little, but not much." Du Xiaofu shook his head at Zhen Qingquan. He didn't know much about the monster race. Zhen Qingquan smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, "Everything in the world has a spirit. Mountains, rivers, peaks, every blade of grass, every tree, every flower, and every fruit can become a spirit. Over countless years, there have been many spiritual mountains, rivers, and peaks in this world. Flowers, trees, plants, and fruits have all turned into demon spirits. Each and every one of them is incomparably powerful, hiding among the masses. Any one of them has terrifying strength. For example, little demon Du is a member of the demon race, and also a demon spirit." Zhen Qingquan paused for a while and continued to say to Du Xiaofu, who was stunned, "For cultivators, some people use the monster race as their vein spirit. This vein spirit is called the beast vein spirit. However, there are also extremely strong people who use the monster race as their vein spirit and become the earth vein spirit. The level of the earth vein spirit is much higher than the beast vein spirit. So this is the earth vein soul." Du Xiaofu finally understood, and it was not hard to understand. For example, his vein spirit was Du Xiaoyao's original body. It was also by chance that his vein spirit had taken on the appearance of Du Xiaoyao's original body, which was far superior to ordinary beast vein spirits. Of course, it doesn't mean that all beast vein souls are incomparable to earth vein souls. Those who possess earth vein souls that possess archaic remains and ancient demonic beasts are all extremely terrifying. Zhen Qingquan continued to say to Du Xiaofu, "The golden-winged great peng bird that is related to you is not an ordinary demonic beast. If someone can obtain the golden-winged great peng bird and turn it into a vein spirit, they will not be inferior to an earth vein spirit." Du Xiaofu lightly smiled, then asked, "I feel that the grass of immortality is very powerful. Among the demon spirits, is it an extremely powerful existence?" "Of course. The grass of immortality is the king of the demon spirits. It is said that it has the means to bring people back from the dead. Zhen Qingchun nodded and said, but I feel that Du Xiaoyao's original body is even stronger than the grass of immortality. Du Xiaoyao's original body is even stronger. That's true. Du Xiaofu nodded. He could also feel that Du Xiaoyao's original body was definitely stronger than the grass of immortality. He said to Zhen Qingchun, what is the greenwood martial vein? How many martial veins are there in this world? How many Renhuang talents are there? Zhen Qingchun's expression became slightly more serious. Looking at Du Xiaofu, he said, there are so many martial veins in this world. Those whose martial veins exceed the 9th level will become the most outstanding person among people. They will be regarded as outstanding talents, and their future will be limitless. There are also some people who are born with a special kind of martial vein. With this special martial vein, their body will also obtain a special kind of power. This kind of special power may come from the heaven and earth, or from the bloodline, and will be very close to them. Relying on this special power brought by the special martial vein, their cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds, and their future will be limitless. This is called King's martial vein. These people are also called the King of Men, the heavenly talent of men. Zhen Qingchun pursed his lips and continued, I've already mentioned the outstanding talents and the human king talents to you before. However, there is another type of person in this world. They are born with king martial veins connected to their bloodline and their mind and soul. They can easily communicate with the special energy of heaven and earth and become the favored child of that special energy of heaven and earth. They can control mountains and lakes, move mountains and seas, or mobilize wind, fire, thunder and lightning. They are born with the king martial vein. They are called Renhuang, the emperor of kings, and have the king of men. In this world, any person with the king of men can become an absolute top cultivator in the future and be proud of everything. After Zhen Qingchun finished speaking, his eyes were also full of shock. How many people with the king of men could there be in this world? The martial vein and the blood vein are connected and become the favorite of a special energy of heaven and earth. Du Xiaofu murmured softly. Thinking back carefully, Sima Muhan activated the greenwood martial vein and controlled the vigorous energy. It was indeed different from the king martial vein activated by Si Ruofeng, Lu Kuan, Feng Xiangyu, and the others. That kind of power was more powerful and truly integrated with heaven and earth. You don't have to be too surprised. You have the martial vein spiritual mark in your body, which proves that your original martial vein is definitely not inferior to the king of men. At least, only those with the king of men can condense the martial vein spiritual mark in their body, Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu. King of men, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with a faint light. After a while, he asked Zhen Qingchun, Brother Qingchun, how long will it take for you to fully recover? I've already recovered a lot. It's just that because of my original cultivation method and some unforeseen events, although there are no major problems now and a complete recovery is just around the corner, it won't take long for me to fully recover. But in terms of time, I'm afraid it's not something that can be done in a short period of time. If I want to completely recover, I'll need another treasure. If I'm at my peak, I should be able to get it with some effort. But in the current situation, I'm afraid it's just a pipe dream. Zhen Qingchun looked at Du Xiaofu and said, but the current situation is much better. When you become a real expert in the future, if you have the opportunity to help me find that treasure, it won't be difficult for me to fully recover. What kind of treasure is it? I think maybe the ancient heaven sect should have it. Du Xiaofu asked Zhen Qingchun. With the ancient heaven sect's power and heritage, there should be countless treasures. Although the ancient heaven sect is powerful, I'm afraid it's difficult for them to possess such a treasure. Treasures like that can only be found by chance. It's not something you can obtain just because you're powerful. Zhen Qingchun smiled and said, what I need is a piece of bark from the boundless tree. If I can obtain a piece of bark from the boundless tree, not only will I be able to fully recover my cultivation from when I was at my peak, but I might even be able to take the opportunity to break through. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhen Qingchun's eyes were filled with anticipation and yearning. Boundless tree, Du Xiaofu muttered softly, keeping the boundless tree in his heart. After chatting with Zhenqing Chun for a while, Du Xiaofu left the desolate ancient space and went to the main peak of Tianmu Peak to see his master. Junior brother really is a monster. He actually recovered so quickly. Seeing Du Xiaofu's rosy complexion and sensing that Du Xiaofu had already recovered to such a state, Yu Wanli could not help but be shocked. He stared at Du Xiaofu in disbelief and carefully studied him for a long time. You've come at the right time. Come with me to see the sect master. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu. For some unknown reason, on his rosy face, his clear eyes were suffused with some helplessness and reluctance. After a while, Du Xiaofu and Elder Gu Qingyang slowly descended from the sky on a huge mountain surrounded by many other mountains. The mountain was surrounded by clouds and mist. It was verdant and lush, and streams gurgled. It was full of vitality. In the distance, the mountains rose and fell, creating a magnificent scene. What a special place! There was a precipitous cliff on the mountain peak. Looking down, it seemed to be a bottomless abyss. It was so dark that nothing could be seen. Only mist-like water flowed within, causing Du Xiaofu to be shocked. Faintly, there seemed to be some kind of terrifying ferocious beast hibernating within the dusky bottomless abyss. Xiaofu, let's go in. The sect master should be waiting for us. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu as he gazed at the grand hall on the mountain peak. Du Xiaofu followed Elder Gu Qingyang into the hall. Sect master Sima Ta Xing was seated at the head of the hall. His aura was mighty without being angry. On his handsome face, a brilliance flickered in his glass-like eyes. At this moment, there were no less than a dozen elders seated on both sides of the hall. Hu Sankuan, Hao Zongwei, Yan Mingze, Kong Zhonglei and other elders were present. Greetings to senior brother sect master and elders. Du Xiaofu bowed. This was not the first time that he had intentionally or unintentionally tried to pry into the sect master's cultivation level. However, he had been unable to do so. You've recovered really quickly. Sensing Du Xiaofu's aura, Sima Ta Xing's eyes were filled with surprise. It was absolutely inconceivable that Du Xiaofu had not recovered to such an extent in just 2 days. This kid has recovered too quickly. He's really abnormal. The gazes of the numerous elders had already landed on Du Xiaofu's body in shock. The battle at the Tianwu Square back then had left all the elders in awe of Du Xiaofu. Chapter 669. The gazes of many elders had already landed on Du Xiaofu in shock. The battle at the Tianwu Square had left all the elders in awe of Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, there are no outsiders today. Sit down, Sima Xingtai said to Su Mo. Sima Taxing said to Du Xiaofu. It seemed that he was used to Du Xiaofu's abnormal behavior. A guy who relied on the cultivation of the complete martial lord realm had actually defeated a Renhuang genius of the martial king realm at the Nirvana realm. What could be more abnormal than this? Xiaofu, sit down. Elder Gu Qingyang sat beside Sima Xingtai and then said to Du Xiaofu. However, his expression was somewhat abnormal today, with a hint of gloominess and helplessness. Yes. After Du Xiaofu nodded, he sat on the chair behind 2 rows of elders. He felt that his master, Elder Gu Qingyang's, expression was somewhat abnormal today. Du Xiaofu sat below. None of the elders had any objections. Many elders even nodded slightly to Du Xiaofu. As Du Xiaofu sat down, Sima Xingtai looked at Elder Gu Qingyang and said, "Martial uncle, you should speak." Okay. Elder Gu Qingyang nodded slightly. Then, his gaze landed on Du Xiaofu and said, "Xiaofu, I have something to discuss with you today. One of your martial uncles has stopped accepting disciples a long time ago, but he intends to take you in as his last disciple. You can leave my sect and enter your martial uncle's sect to cultivate. What do you think?" Hearing this, Du Xiaofu immediately stood up. His clear eyes looked at Elder Gu Qingyang. His gaze was filled with doubt as he said, "Master, are you going to expel me from your sect? Of course not. Elder Gu Qingyang shook his head. He forced out a bitter smile and said, I might not have told you clearly, but that uncle master of yours is one of the peak experts of my ancient heaven sect. His cultivation is even above mine. To tell you the truth, I haven't taken in many disciples in my life. Including you, there are only 6 of them. Your first 5 senior brothers and sisters are all extraordinary. But under my tutelage, none of them achieved anything. Facts have proven that it is indeed not suitable for me to accept any more disciples, lest I lead them astray and ruin their future. Your natural talent is extremely high. If you continue to stay under my wing, I'm afraid you'll follow in the footsteps of your 5 senior brothers and senior sisters one day. So, if you join your martial uncle's wing, you'll naturally be able to benefit greatly in the future. Not long after, you'll definitely be able to become an expert. As Elder Gu Qingyang's words fell, many of the other elders' faces were filled with emotions. Because of the competition between the disciples, many of the elders had teased Elder Gu Qingyang many times over the years. However, when they heard Elder Gu Qingyang's words, they could not help but feel emotional. For the sake of the entire ancient heaven sect, Elder Gu Qingyang was willing to give up such a talented disciple. This kind of noble character and unquestionable integrity was not something an ordinary person could do. Afterwards, all the elders looked at Du Xiaofu. That expert in the Manchu had spoken, intending to take Du Xiaofu in as a disciple. This was a rare opportunity. Countless people in the ancient heaven sect wanted to become a disciple of that expert, but they could not get what they wanted. Becoming a disciple of that expert was equivalent to becoming an expert whose name would shake the Central Plains in the future. A master for a day is a master for life. As the saying goes, the master leads the way and the cultivation is up to the individual. How can I change my master's wing? Du Xiaofu looked at Elder Gu Qingyang with gratitude in his clear eyes. He said, disciple knows that this is master's goodwill, but disciple has already made up his mind. I will not change my master's wing. There were ripples in Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes. He looked at Du Xiaofu and scolded, you little brat, if you become a disciple of your uncle master, you will definitely benefit greatly in the future. If you continue to stay under my tutelage, you will only bury your talent. I know that I don't know how to teach you on the road of cultivation. If you still have me as your master in your heart when you become a top cultivator in the future, I will be satisfied. Disciple has already made up his mind. A master for a day is a master for life. Looking at Elder Gu Qingyang, how could Du Xiaofu not know that although Elder Gu Qingyang was unable to guide him too much on the path of cultivation, Elder Gu Qingyang's love and care for him came from the bottom of his heart. His path of cultivation was different from others, and he also had the guidance of this big brother Zhen Qingchen. This kind of care was something that he would never forget. Du Xiaofu knelt on the ground and raised his head to look at Elder Gu Qingyang. He said, disciple does not kneel to the heavens, nor the earth, nor the emperor. I only kneel to my parents and master. Today, unless master expels me from the sect, disciple will not change his master's wing. This kid, should I call him stupid or something, if only I had a disciple like him. Looking at Du Xiaofu, some of the elders sighed in admiration, while others were envious. Elder Qingyang, you've really accepted a good disciple this time. Some elders sighed. When accepting a disciple, one must have outstanding talent and intelligence, but in comparison, one's character was more important. Du Xiaofu's character caused all the elders to be moved. Her talent was outstanding, and her nature was firm and resolute. Such a disciple was actually accepted by Elder Gu Qingyang as his disciple. If I had known, would have chased after him no matter what. Hu Sangkuan and Elder Chang Mingze exchanged glances, their hearts aching. If they had known that Du Xiaofu had such talent and character, how could they not have chased after him? It was precisely because Elder Gu Qingyang had chased after him that he was able to accept such a disciple as his disciple. Xiaofu, quickly get up. A man has gold under his knees, how can he kneel so casually? Get up! Elder Gu Qingyang's figure flashed like lightning, appearing in front of Du Xiaofu in a flash. He pulled Du Xiaofu up with both hands, his clear eyes rippling with tears. Master, are you not going to expel me from the sect? Du Xiaofu stood up, looking at the old man in front of him. Ha ha ha! Elder Gu Qingyang laughed, patting Du Xiaofu's shoulder, saying, Hey, Gu Qingyang, am satisfied to be able to accept you as my disciple in this lifetime. In the future, not to mention your martial uncle, even if your grandmaster wants you, I will not agree. As his words fell, Elder Gu Qingyang looked at Du Xiaofu, his clear eyes turning as he said, however, you must remember to seek guidance from your martial uncle in the future. Do not delay on your cultivation path. This disciple understands. Du Xiaofu nodded, a slight smile appearing on his face. Sigh, fine. Sima Taxing could only helplessly look at the situation, but his glassy eyes secretly flashed with admiration. He then said to the many elders in the hall, just now, Du Xiaofu has formally become a disciple of martial uncle Gu Qingyang in the Manchu. From now on, Du Xiaofu is the disciple of martial uncle Gu Qingyang. Congratulations, Elder Qingyang. Congratulations, Elder Qingyang. Hearing this, all the elders present immediately congratulated Elder Gu Qingyang. Having accepted such a disciple, Gu Qingyang was much stronger than all of their disciples. They were all very envious. Congratulations, congratulations as well. Elder Gu Qingyang beamed with joy, sweeping away the previous haze and becoming full of smiles. After a while, only Sima Taxing, Du Xiaofu, and Gu Qingyang were in the side hall behind the main hall. Du Xiaofu, I called you here alone because there is one more thing I want to discuss with you. In the side hall, Sima Taxing said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded and said to Sima Taxing, please go ahead, senior brother. Sit down first. There are no outsiders here. You are now my junior brother. You don't need to be too polite. Sima Taxing motioned Du Xiaofu to sit down, and then said to Du Xiaofu seriously, before that, I have to ask you something first. You have to tell me the truth. Please ask, senior brother. Du Xiaofu nodded after sitting down, and there was no trace of fluctuation in his eyes. If he could tell the truth, he would naturally not hide it. After all, he was also a member of the ancient sky sect. You have used the beast energy of the golden winged rock, and it seems to be extraordinary. Is it related to the golden winged rock? Sima Taxing asked. Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded. There was nothing to hide. He said to Sima Taxing, by chance, I obtained some things related to the golden winged rock. I comprehended a lot of the golden winged rock's beast energy and secret techniques. It can be considered to be somewhat successful. Sure enough. Hearing this, Sima Taxing's serious face revealed a slight smile, and then he continued to say to Du Xiaofu, it seems that this time, you can't enter the secret area of the Manchu with Mu Ha, Feng Xiangyu, Shu Yang, and the others to cultivate. Why is that? Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was stunned. Back then, they had agreed that if they could win, the 16 of them would be able to enter a secret area of the ancient sky sect to cultivate. Don't be too nervous. You can't enter that secret area to cultivate, but you can enter a sealed area of our ancient sky sect. That sealed area might be of great help to you in comprehending the beast energy and secret techniques of the golden winged rock. Sima Taxing looked at Du Xiaofu and said, our ancient sky sect has always sealed off the news of that sealed area. Other than a very small number of people, no one else knows about it because that sealed area is related to the golden winged rock. Chapter 670. Is it related to the golden winged rock? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. If the sealed land was related to the golden winged rock, then it was a suitable place for him to go. He might really be able to gain something from it. Elder Gu Qingyang continued. He looked at Du Xiaofu with his clear eyes and said, that is a secret place in the ancient sky sect. It has existed for many years. It is said that it is related to the founding ancestor of the ancient sky sect. Only those who have comprehended the golden winged rock's beast energy can enter that sealed land. Others cannot enter at all. Pursing his lips, Elder Gu Qingyang looked at Du Xiaofu seriously and continued, in the past countless years, many Manchu people who were lucky enough to comprehend the golden winged rock's beast energy have entered that sealed land. However, in the end, no one has been able to come out except for an elder from the ancient sky sect 500 years ago. That sealed land is a place of great danger. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. Out of all the people from the ancient sky sect who went in, only one person was able to come out. It could be seen that the sealed land was definitely a place of great danger. Elder Gu Qingyang continued to speak to Du Xiaofu, no one knows what is inside and what is inside. However, according to the elder who was lucky enough to come out of the sealed land is related to the golden winged rock race. In that sealed land, the elder from the Manchu comprehended the golden winged rock's beast energy. With the golden winged rock's beast energy, it was rare for him to meet a worthy opponent. He was able to defeat his peers and become famous in the central province. Du Xiaofu nodded. The golden winged rock's beast energy was extraordinary. To be able to comprehend the golden winged rock's beast energy, he was naturally not an ordinary person. Unfortunately, 80 years ago, that elder secretly entered the sealed land again to seek a breakthrough. However, he never came out again. Sima Taxing looked at Du Xiaofu and said. His eyes were filled with emotions. That elder was extremely powerful. If they lost him, it would undoubtedly be a great blow to the entire ancient sky sect. Did that Manchu elder also encounter trouble in the sealed land? Du Xiaofu frowned. If that was the case, then the sealed land was definitely a place of no return. No. Sima Taxing shook his head, he left a seal in the Manchu. That elder left a seal in the Manchu is still in the sealed land. That. If he is in the Manchu, then the seal. The Manchu is the Manchu elders. The Manchu. Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu, according to the sect's guess, that elder should have been trapped in the sealed land, or fallen into some kind of predicament, so he hasn't come out in the past 80 years. Has anyone from the Manchu gone in to search? Du Xiaofu asked. To be able to stay in the sealed land for 80 years, the probability of him being in seclusion all the time was not too high. It was most likely that he had encountered some unforeseen circumstances inside. Sima Taxing Star smiled bitterly and said to Du Xiaofu, like I said before, only those who have comprehended the abilities of the golden winged rock can enter the sealed place. There are very few people who can comprehend the abilities of the golden winged rock, and those who don't comprehend enough cannot enter. So in the past 30 years, only 2 people have entered the sealed land, but they have never come out. The seals they left behind have dissipated. They must have suffered a great calamity in the sealed land. This seems to be very troublesome. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Experts were unable to enter, and even if a disciple who had comprehended the golden winged rock beast ability entered, he would not be able to return. No one knew what was going on inside the seal grounds, and this matter was very troublesome. I can sense that the power of the golden winged rock you've comprehended is extraordinary. Over the years, I've seen a few people who have comprehended the power of the golden winged rock, but none of them can compare to you. Sima Taxing looked at Du Xiaofu. His glassy eyes glowed as he frowned slightly. He said to Du Xiaofu sternly, the Manchu experts have discussed and decided to let you enter the sealed land to take a look. Firstly, it's to see the situation of that senior. Hopefully, that senior of the Manchu will be able to escape from danger. In addition, I hope that it will be of some help to you in comprehending the golden winged rock, but we can't make a decision on this matter. It's too dangerous inside, and the experts of the Manchu can't enter. If you suffer any mishaps inside, this is something that the Manchu definitely doesn't want to see. But right now, you are the only person who can enter the sealed land. His voice paused for a moment. Sima Taxing's gaze was complicated, and he found it difficult to make a decision. Then, he continued to speak to Du Xiaofu, so, this matter must be decided by you. If you don't want to enter the sealed land to try, then tomorrow morning, you can enter the secret plane with Muha and the others to comprehend for half a year. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he was also at a loss. The sealed land was a place of no return, but it was related to the Golden Winged Rock clan. If he went in, he might be able to obtain some benefits, but if he went in, he might not be able to return. Xiaofu, you have to think carefully. The sealed land is very dangerous, and you might not be able to return. If you don't want to go in, the Manchu won't make things difficult for you. Elder Gu Qingyang reminded Du Xiaofu. Although he hoped that the elder of the Manchu would be able to escape, he still hoped that his disciple would be safe. If you don't enter the tiger's den, you won't get the tiger cub. Only with great danger will there be great opportunities. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved as he thought to himself. He was also very conflicted in his heart. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and raised his head to look at his master, Elder Gu Qingyang, and Sima Taxing. Master, senior brother sect master, I am willing to enter the sealed land and give it a try. You want to go in? When Sima Taxing heard this, he suddenly became more worried. He said, you have to think carefully. The sealed land may really be a place of no return. Didn't the elder of the Manchu come out before? I've decided to go in and give it a try. The elder of the Manchu had also come out before. This made Du Xiaofu decide that he was willing to give it a try. Riches and honor were found in danger. The sealed land was related to the Golden Winged Rock clan. Naturally, he had to explore it. If he didn't go, it would not be Du Xiaofu's style. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had made a decision, Sima Taxing and Elder Gu Qingyang lowered their heads and looked at each other. Finally, they nodded with a complicated expression and said nothing more. According to the rules of your previous victory, you can get a high-grade Dao tool from the Manchu as a reward. Take this. It is a treasure passed down from the Manchu. It is already at the top of the high-grade Dao tools. It is said that in terms of defense, it can be called a peak high-grade Dao tool. Sima Taxing handed a Qiankuan bag to Du Xiaofu and said, this treasure is also related to the Golden Winged Rock. I hope it can be of help to you in the sealed land. You should recognize and refine it as your master as soon as possible. 5 days later, you can enter the sealed land. Du Xiaofu nodded after receiving the Qiankuan bag. He was full of expectations for treasures related to the Golden Winged Rock. After leaving the main hall, Du Xiaofu did not go back to his place of residence. Instead, he went directly to the outer sect. Compared to the inner sect, the outer sect of the Ancient Heaven sect was undoubtedly more prosperous and lively. In the Ancient Heaven sect, the total number of inner sect disciples did not exceed 3,000 people, including many protectors and elders. In the outer sect, there were hundreds of thousands of disciples. It could be said to be a small city. It was impossible for all the disciples to cultivate 24 hours a day. During this time, they had to change their clothes and buy cultivation resources. Female disciples could not do without rouge face powder, exquisite accessories, and so on. This made the outer sect extremely prosperous. The inner sect disciples also often went to the outer sect for a stroll. There was an area in the outer sect. There were several streets inside and outside. They were densely packed with shops and businesses. There were accessories, clothing, rouge, face powder, and so on. Among them, the most lively were the shops that bought and sold cultivation resources. These shops were no different from the businesses outside. They had martial skills, talisman arrays, elixirs, spiritual herbs, weapons, body armor, and so on. The difference was that the shops in the outer sect had some high-grade martial skills and high-grade elixirs. It was absolutely difficult for businesses in the outside world to have them. Many businesses in the outside world would come to the Ancient Heaven sect to get their goods. In the early days of the Ancient Heaven sect's sphere of influence, the Ancient Heaven sect was the leader of all the businesses in the outside world. The scale of this secret business was absolutely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. It was easy to imagine how prosperous the outer sect was. Think about it. Just the cultivation resources of hundreds of thousands of people in the ancient heaven sect were enormous. The World Pavilion was a shop opened by the recently popular World Club. It was located in the most prosperous area in the outer sect area. Close to it were many famous shops in the ancient heaven sect, big and small. Because of the World Club, the World Pavilion had been in the limelight recently. It had attracted the attention of many disciples and customers. It had successfully gained a foothold. It was said that the business of the World Pavilion recently had made many old shops envious. As dusk approached, the sun set in the west and the sunset covered the sky. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared outside the World Pavilion. As dusk approached, the streets were still bustling with people. The streets were not as noisy as the outside world, but it was still quite noisy and lively. It was like a small city in the outside world. Du Xiaofu walked into the World Pavilion. It was not small. It was about 10 feet long and several feet wide. All the counters and walls were filled with a dazzling array of elixirs, spiritual herbs, martial skills, weapons, armors, martial skills, talisman arrays, and so on. Du Xiaofu even saw that there were a lot of energy copper talismans on sale. However, the price was not low. At this moment, there were dozens of disciples in the World Pavilion with their heads lowered, choosing various cultivation resources. President, why are you here? Sorry for making everyone wait. Today's update is over. Everyone, rest early. Chapter 671. Gu Zhangyu, who was counting something at the counter, raised his head. When he saw Du Xiaofu appear in World Pavilion, he immediately rushed out. It's Martial Uncle Du, it really is Martial Uncle Du, greetings, Martial Uncle Du. Inside World Pavilion, a dozen Manchu disciples who were picking out cultivation items raised their heads. When they saw Du Xiaofu, they were all shocked. Then, they bowed respectfully. In the ancient heaven sect, everyone knew about Du Xiaofu's identity. As the disciple of Elder Gu Qingyang, he could be considered as the sect master's junior brother. This status was enough to make all the outer sect disciples respect him. Moreover, the battle between Du Xiaofu and Sima Muhan in the Tianwu Plaza had already shocked the entire ancient heaven sect. To the outer sect disciples, Du Xiaofu had absolute respect for them. There's no need to be so polite. If you need anything in the future, you can come to World Pavilion to take a look. Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that there were more than 100,000 disciples in the ancient heaven sect, but the forces behind them were even more powerful. The disciples who could enter the ancient heaven sect were definitely not ordinary disciples. Most of them had their own families and forces behind them. The 100,000 disciples in the ancient heaven sect had close to 100,000 families and forces behind them. With the talent of these disciples and the status of the ancient heaven sect's disciples, it was very likely that they would influence the families behind them. When the time came, the sales of World Pavilion would definitely be huge. Yes, we will definitely only come to World Pavilion in the future. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the dozen people were instantly excited. They nodded their heads and replied. President, why are you here? How are your injuries? We were all worried about you. Gu Zhangyu came to Du Xiaofu's side and immediately asked. His gaze kept on sizing up Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to Gu Zhangyu, I'm fine now. What about them? Gu Zhangyu knew that Du Xiaofu was asking about Hao Guan, Qiao Yingmeng, Mu Jiejia, Mo Wen, Benyu, and the others. He replied, Senior brother Hao Guan and the others came this morning. Tomorrow, they will enter the Manchu's secret area to cultivate for half a year. Therefore, they left after giving me some instructions. Du Xiaofu nodded. Judge Hao, Qiao Yingmeng, and the others were going into seclusion for half a year, so World Pavilion could only be handed over to Gu Zhangyu. Subsequently, Du Xiaofu also found out some information about the World Society from Gu Zhangyu. The World Pavilion was opened by the World Clubhouse. Most of the cultivation items inside were consigned by the current members of the World Clubhouse. In terms of overall competitiveness, it didn't seem to be very strong. Especially as Gu Zhangyu had said, there were very few alchemy talisman masters and artifact talisman masters in the World Association, so the items that the World Pavilion could offer were not many. Once the World Society's disciples finished selling their cultivation resources, the World Pavilion might directly close down. Moreover, if the World Pavilion's cultivation resources were scarce, it would have a huge impact on the World Pavilion in the future. There were many powerful alchemy talisman masters and artifact talisman masters in the Manchu's other factions. In the World Society, although Mu Jiejia was a spirit talisman master, her main cultivation was talisman arrays and her minor was alchemy talisman master. Moreover, she would be entering the secret area to cultivate tomorrow. In addition, although the World Society had a lot of members, they weren't united. Gu Zhangyu had also mentioned this, and Xiao Yingmeng had also mentioned it. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu frowned. President, you should be entering the Manchu's secret area to cultivate tomorrow, right? I will definitely look after the World Society and World Pavilion. Gu Zhangyu patted his chest and said to Du Xiaofu. I won't be entering the Manchu's secret area tomorrow. Du Xiaofu pondered for a moment, then said to Gu Zhangyu, give me all the spiritual herbs in the World Pavilion. In a few days, I'll refine some pills and bring them over. Although Gu Zhangyu felt it was strange and didn't understand, when he heard Du Xiaofu's words, he immediately put away all the spiritual herbs in the World Pavilion. There were quite a lot of them. After Du Xiaofu put away the spiritual herbs, he gave Gu Zhangyu some instructions. Only after the sun had set did he leave the World Pavilion. When he returned to his residence, it was already dusk. After setting up a seal, Du Xiaofu immediately entered the ancient desolate space. In the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu met with his big brother, Zhen Qingchun. He told him about what Sima Taxing and his master, Gu Qingyang, had told him about the place where the golden-winged great peng was sealed. After learning about everything, Zhen Qingchun's eyes flickered. After thinking for a while, he said to Du Xiaofu, from what you've said, the ancient heaven sect shouldn't harm you. There are indeed dangers and opportunities in this matter. As for the final outcome, it will depend on your own luck and fortune. However, you must be careful in there. The experts of the ancient heaven sect cannot enter the sealed area. When the time comes, bring me in and I'll help you take a look. Du Xiaofu nodded. He would enter the sealed area in 5 days. At that time, he would naturally have to be careful. If his big brother, Zhen Qingchun, was by his side, it would naturally be much safer. Then, Du Xiaofu took out the Qiankuan pouch that Sima Taxing had given him. There were no seals in the pouch. After probing it with his spiritual force, Du Xiaofu immediately summoned something. Boom! At this moment, a golden light suddenly flickered. A mighty and overbearing aura swept out, shaking the surrounding misty space violently. Golden light shot out in all directions. A terrifying aura swept out. Screech! A sharp screech resounded. Amidst the golden light, there were golden talisman runes flickering. It was as if a golden-winged great peng was flapping its wings. It soared into the sky with surging power. Such a domineering and terrifying power made Du Xiaofu and Zhen Qingchun, who was not far away, tremble. Amidst the golden light, a palm leaf fan-sized golden arc fan emerged. The arc was moving. There were layers of golden feathers. Its shape was fierce and domineering. It was wrapped in talisman runes, like the golden wings of a great peng. The aura that spread out from the golden palm leaf fan was even more domineering and terrifying. For Du Xiaofu, he could feel that the aura that spread out from the golden palm leaf fan was an absolutely domineering aura of the golden-winged great peng bird. An extraordinary high-grade Dao tool. It seems to be related to the golden-winged great peng bird. Zhen Qingchuan's illusory figure also stared at the golden palm leaf fan wrapped in the golden light. There were fluctuations in his eyes. He said, if my guess is correct, This item is refined from the feathers of the golden-winged great peng bird. It has the aura of the golden-winged great peng bird. It is a rare treasure. However, only one of the feathers is from the golden-winged great peng bird. The rest should be fakes. If they were all refined from the feathers of the golden-winged great peng bird, then it would definitely be a real treasure. Du Xiaofu was quite shocked. A real peng feather from the golden-winged great peng bird could be refined into a high-grade Dao tool. How powerful was that? Master recognition, fusion. Then Du Xiaofu smiled and condensed a seal in his hand. This golden palm leaf fan was still an ownerless item. Only after enduring the fusion could it be considered his. The next morning in the ancient heaven sect, Sima Muhan, Xu Yang, Qiao Yingmeng, Hao Guan, Mo Wen, and Feng Xiangyu stood in front of a secret ground. However, Du Xiaofu was nowhere to be seen. Among the 16, one of them was Su Chuyun, who was defeated by Du Xiaofu and kicked out of the top 16. Su Chuyun's face was still extremely pale. Back then, she had been severely injured by Du Xiaofu and hadn't recovered much. Seeing that Du Xiaofu wasn't among them and couldn't enter the secret ground of the Manchu to cultivate for half a year, a sneer flashed across Su Chuyun's face. Why isn't the president here? Strange, could it be that the president hasn't recovered yet? Qiao Yingmeng, Hao Guan, Mo Wen, and the others were quite puzzled. They whispered among themselves, not knowing what had happened. That guy has some matters to attend to and won't enter the secret ground with us. Don't worry too much, he should be fine now. Sima Muhan said to Qiao Yingmeng and the others. Her face was rosy and lustrous, as if she had recovered to her peak. A moment later, an elder came and opened a secret area. A surge of boundless heaven and earth energy gushed out, and the 16 of them disappeared into the secret area. As the 16 people entered seclusion, the disciples of the ancient heaven sect cultivated, comprehended, and listened to the elders' lectures. Everything went on as usual. However, Du Xiaofu didn't enter the secret ground with Sima Muhan, Qiao Yingmeng, Xu Yang, and the others. There were many versions of this in the Manchu. However, no one knew the specific reason. Inside the ancient desolate space, there was a golden light wrapped around it like a huge golden cocoon. A figure could be faintly seen sitting cross-legged there, and a strand of pressure spread out from the surroundings, and it was peerlessly domineering and fierce. Whoosh! Amidst the golden light, there seemed to be a phantom of a golden rock flapping its wings and soaring into the sky. It soared up into the sky for a moment, then flapped its wings and soared into the sky. It was as if it was alive, mysterious and powerful. This guy recognized a high-grade Dao artifact so easily. Could it be that it has something to do with the golden rock cultivation art he cultivates? Not far away, Zhen Qingchuan's eyes flickered and a look of shock appeared on his face. Chapter 672. Normally, it would not be easy for a cultivator at the peak of the martial lord realm to recognize a high-grade Dao artifact as its master. At the level of a high-grade Dao artifact, it was not easy for it to recognize someone as its master. If the person was unable to suppress the power of the Dao artifact, it would not be able to recognize someone as its master. From what Zhen Qingchun saw, the high-grade Dao artifact easily recognized someone as its master in front of Du Xiaofu. It was as if this Dao artifact had already been refined by Du Xiaofu. Walala, within the golden light cocoon, there was a vigorous aura that was rising. The fluctuation of the aura was extremely shocking. After this continued for a few hours, the rising aura seemed to have reached its peak. There were no signs of it rising anymore. Only then did it gradually calm down. The golden light cocoon then slowly disappeared. It was as if traces of golden energy had entered Du Xiaofu's body. When the last trace of golden light around Du Xiaofu's body disappeared, he spat out a mouthful of turbid air. His tightly shut eyes opened. His gaze was deep. TSK. The light in his eyes slowly turned clear. With a slight thought, a golden peng fan appeared in front of Du Xiaofu in his palm. Wang! The golden peng fan in front of Du Xiaofu emitted a faint golden light. It slowly rotated in front of him and emitted the sound of wind and thunder. The overbearing and swift curves on the golden peng fan were like the golden wings of a peng. It made one's heart palpitate with excitement just by looking at it. Not a bad treasure. It is not inferior to your tyrannical shadow. Looking at the golden peng fan in front of Du Xiaofu, Zhen Qingchen also praised it. This item is called the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Fan. Its defense is stronger than its attack. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and held the golden peng fan in front of him. From the information after it recognized him as its master, he knew that this fan was called the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Wings. Its overbearing and swift curves caused one's heart to palpitate. The aura that was faintly emitted from it was definitely not something an ordinary Tao artifact could compare to. From the information after it recognized him as its master, Du Xiaofu also knew that the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Fan was a treasure that was both offensive and defensive. In terms of defense, it was even more powerful. Many of its uses were incomparably magical. After recognizing this Fuyao Heaven Shaking Fan, your cultivation level seems to have increased a lot. Martial Marquis Complete Peak, right? Martial Lord. Zhen Qingchen felt the aura on Du Xiaofu's body at this moment, and recognized this high-grade Tao artifact as its master, allowing Du Xiaofu to obtain great benefits from it. Yes, I'm at the peak of the Martial Lord realm. After Du Xiaofu nodded his head, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. After recognizing the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Fan as its master, he absorbed some of the energy within the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Wings, allowing himself to step into the peak of the Martial Lord realm. The energy within the Fuyao Heaven Shaking Fan was also closely related to the Golden Winged Rock. It was even easier to refine it for one's own use. It's not easy to break through to the Martial King realm. You have to comprehend more about the Meridian Spirit. Only by transforming the Meridian Spirit and placing it within the Divine Watchtower can you truly break through to the Martial King realm. Zhen Qingchen said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded his head. The difficulty of placing the Meridian Spirit into the Divine Watchtower was no small matter. In this world, who knew how many cultivators of the Martial Lord realm with extraordinary talent had stopped at the step of transforming the Meridian Spirit? It was even possible that they would never be able to cross that step in their entire lives. Therefore, in the following time, he really had to comprehend more about the Meridian Spirit. Do you plan to go to the sealed area next? Zhen Qingchen looked at Du Xiaofu and asked. It should still be early. It should only take me 5 days to become the master of the Shaking Sky Fan. Only half a day has passed in the outside world. After 5 days, I will go to the sealed area. In the remaining time, I want to refine some pills and take the opportunity to hone my skills in refining pills. Du Xiaofu said to Zhen Qingchen. 5 days. There were still 45 days left in the outside world. It was enough time to refine some pills. He didn't need to refine many high-grade pills. He just needed to refine some marquis-grade pills. At the same time, he could also hone his skills in refining pills. It's time to hone yourself. In the process of refining pills, it can also strengthen your mental and soul power. I have some time recently, so I can teach you how to refine a few special pills. It should be of great help to you in the future. I just don't know if you have all the spiritual herbs on you. Zhen Qingchen smiled. It was finally time for him to perform. Although he majored in talisman arrays, his attainments in medicine and talisman masters were definitely not low. I shouldn't be lacking too many spiritual herbs. Hearing this, with the guidance of his big brother Zhen Qingchen, he was also looking forward to it. Du Xiaofu already had a lot of spiritual herbs on him. In addition, he also packed all the spiritual herbs from the World Pavilion. When refining ordinary pills, he shouldn't be lacking too many spiritual herbs. Bang! A short time later, when everything was ready, Du Xiaofu condensed a hand seal in his hand. Suddenly, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. In front of him, runes gathered and arranged themselves, before finally condensing into a cauldron. A blazing aura spread out, and the mysterious runes on the cauldron flickered unceasingly. A powerful aura surged out like a wave. White, green, black, red and yellow, these 5 energies flickered. What an abnormal guy. Looking at the cauldron condensed in front of Du Xiaofu, Zhen Qingquan's wretched face was still filled with helplessness. How many talisman masters could condense a cauldron condensed from 5 types of runes? Let's start preparing. I will now teach you how to refine a kind of profound origin pill. This kind of pill isn't divided into grades, but is greatly related to spiritual herbs. The higher the grade of the main material, the higher the grade of the pill. After taking it, it will allow the user to recover his body's potential in an extremely short time, recovering his peak strength. Zhen Qingquan explained to Du Xiaofu, "In a moment, I will teach you how to refine a kind of berserk pill. This one isn't divided into grades either. The main material is the blood essence of various tyrannical demon beasts. The higher the grade of the blood essence, the higher the grade of the berserk pill. After taking it, it will immediately raise the user's cultivation by a lot, greatly increasing his strength. But after taking the profound origin pill and the berserk pill, the body will be somewhat damaged. Fortunately, the side effects aren't too great, but they can't be taken frequently." There's such a kind of pill. Du Xiaofu's eyes immediately lit up. He didn't expect such a miraculous pill to exist in this world. It was simply inconceivable. The things on Big Brother Zhen Qingquan's body really weren't ordinary. These 2 kinds of pill recipes were obtained by chance in an ancient place. They aren't ordinary things. Don't spread them around. When Zhen Qingquan saw Du Xiaofu's shocked expression, he immediately had a smile on his face. As the big brother, his foundation was not something that this little fellow could compare to. There's another update for today, but it should be a bit later, so I'm telling you in advance. In addition, the next chapter will be a new volume of content. For the new volume, Little Yu has thought of 2 major plots. One is about his name shaking the central continent, and the other is about a huge crisis that requires him to be reborn from the ashes. Both plots will have to be written, but I don't know which one is better, so I'll keep thinking about it. Chapter 673. Du Xiaofu condensed the spiritual stove symbol cauldron and listened to Big Brother Zhen Qingquan recite the pill recipe and things to take note of. Du Xiaofu wrapped his xian qi around the spiritual stove symbol cauldron and threw it into the spiritual stove symbol cauldron. Walala, inside the spiritual stove symbol cauldron, a blazing flame whizzed out and wrapped around a spiritual medicine, slowly refining it. The spiritual stove symbol cauldron didn't need to use external objects. The human body had the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The lungs were metal, the liver was wood, the kidney was water, the heart was fire, and the temper was earth. Metal could create water, the kidney's water was the essence of the world, wood could create fire, and the heart's fire was the god of the world. With the heart as the fire and the kidney as the cauldron as the water, condensing the spiritual stove symbol cauldron was enough to burn everything. It was rumored that the strongest spiritual talisman masters could use the spiritual stove symbol cauldron to melt everything. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Du Xiaofu wasn't in a hurry to refine the spiritual medicine. He was more focused on listening to Big Brother Zhen Qingquan recite the pill recipe and things to take note of. As the saying goes, sharpening a knife won't delay the work of cutting wood. When refining pills, even the slightest mistake was enough to make one have to start all over again. More importantly, when the time came, the spiritual medicine would be destroyed and the person himself would be injured. Du Xiaofu was very unfamiliar with the pill that his elder brother, Zhen Qingquan, was teaching him to refine. This was an ancient pill formula. It was even more difficult to refine. Therefore, he didn't dare to be careless. However, with Zhen Qingquan's guidance and Du Xiaofu's own comprehension, everything went smoothly. Zhen Qingchun was also affected by the fact that things were going so smoothly. Back when he was at Du Xiaofu's cultivation level, he was also known as a genius. However, compared to this terrifying fellow before him, he was definitely being abused. After memorizing the pill recipe in his mind, Du Xiaofu carefully paid attention to the things that his big brother Zhen Qingchun had mentioned. In the end, he completely immersed himself in refining the pill. The refinement of this kind of pill was extremely taxing on one's mental spiritual strength and internal energy. However, it was also extremely beneficial to one's mental spiritual strength. It was the best way to train one's mental spiritual strength. In the misty space, the runes on the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron fluctuated, and flames surged violently, causing the temperature of the whole space to gradually rise. With the help of his spiritual power, Du Xiaofu slowly refined all kinds of herbs. This process was relatively simple, but it tested one's basic skills the most. There had to be a certain degree of temperature in the flame. If the temperature was too high, the spirit herbs would be directly burned clean. If the temperature was too low, it would not be enough to refine the spirit liquid. It would even affect the purity of the spirit liquid. Therefore, in this process, basic skills were especially important. For Du Xiaofu, refining a new kind of pill was something he had never touched before. He had no experience at all. He could only rely on his own exploration and perception to proceed. Time slowly passed. The extraction of the medicinal liquid within the elixir was completed in Du Xiaofu's hands. Not a single elixir was wasted. This caused Zhen Qingchun, who was nearby, to shoot a glance as he helplessly sighed. Du Xiaofu was now refining the spiritual medicine pill capable of rapidly recovering internal energy. The first step of refining the spirit liquid had already been completed, and the second step was to fuse the spirit liquid into the pill. This step was a lot more complicated than the previous one. In this process, the fusion of the various spirit liquids, as well as the sequence, etc. The slightest mistake would cause all the previous efforts to go to waste. Du Xiaofu was completely focused, carefully controlling the spirit liquid and the flame to start refining, slowly fusing the spirit herbs. Under Du Xiaofu's control, and with the help of his vigorous mental spiritual strength, the spirit liquid inside the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron started to show signs of fusing. Time slowly passed, and in the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu wasn't too worried about time. Currently, Du Xiaofu wasn't refining spiritual medicine of high grade, and the level of the spirit herbs he had wasn't enough for him to refine high-grade pills. He could only refine pills of the noble grade and nothing more. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation as a 6-star spiritual talisman master, refining pills of the noble grade wasn't an extremely hard thing to accomplish, even though they were made using an ancient recipe. After an unknown amount of time, the whistling flames inside the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron finally started to spread a dazzling multicolored light, and a rich medicinal fragrance assailed the nostrils. Buzz! At a certain time, a dazzling multicolored light shot out from inside the spiritual stove and symbol cauldron, emitting energy fluctuations. The pill was wrapped in mysterious runes, radiating dazzling light and emitting a rich medicinal fragrance. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered, and his hand seals changed. Grabbing at the air above, an incorporeal energy immediately wrapped around that dazzling multicolored pill, sucking it into his palm. The multicolored light vanished, and in Du Xiaofu's palm, a pill the size of half an infant's fist appeared. The fluctuations of energy on the pill slowly vanished, before completely condensing into a lustrous pill covered in runes. Refining a noble-grade spiritual medicine of the Permetha level on your first try is already pretty good. Zhen Qingchun shot a glance at the pill in Du Xiaofu's palm, pretending to be indifferent, as if he didn't care about it at all. Little did he know that right now, Zhen Qingchun wanted to curse him inside. He knew the difficulty of refining a spiritual medicine of the spiritual medicine of Xianyuan. It was absolutely incomparable to refining an ordinary pill. Back then, when he refined it for the first time, he directly failed twice, but Du Xiaofu actually succeeded in refining it on the first try. I feel like the refining speed can be a bit faster. If I strengthen the main ingredients a bit, I reckon the grade can be raised a bit as well. Du Xiaofu said as if he had understood something. In the process of refining, he had benefited greatly, and found a lot of feelings. Zhen Qingchun looked at Du Xiaofu, and really wanted to curse him inside, but after opening his mouth a few times, he simply ran to the side and didn't say anything. He felt that his heart was suffocating, and needed to calm down by himself. After Du Xiaofu rested for an hour, he continued to immerse himself in refining pills. Time gradually passed by. 5 days passed quickly in the outside world as well. In these few days, Du Xiaofu had officially become the disciple of Elder Gu Qingyang, and the news of him receiving the approval of the sect master had spread throughout the entire ancient heaven sect, shocking many onlookers. As for the outside world, when the news spread, it also alarmed many forces. For a moment, they were all trying to find out about Du Xiaofu's origin. Unfortunately, Du Xiaofu's origin was like a mystery to the vast and boundless Zhong province, and they couldn't find out any information at all. On the afternoon of the 5th day, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in the world pavilion. His face was extremely pale, and it was obvious that he had consumed a lot of energy. "President, what's wrong with you?" In the world pavilion, Gu Zhangyu saw Du Xiaofu's pale face, and immediately ran over nervously. "I'm fine. Take these pills and sell them in the world pavilion." Du Xiaofu smiled and took out jade bottles of various sizes from his qiankuan bag. There were many pills in them. Other than the profound yuan pill and berserk pill, Du Xiaofu had also refined many other pills. During the 45 days in the ancient desolate space, other than recovering by breathing, Du Xiaofu had been refining pills. He was especially familiar with refining the profound yuan pill and berserk pill. The more he refined, the more familiar he became. As for refining other noble grade pills, Du Xiaofu was very familiar with them, and it wasn't difficult for him to refine them. After that, Du Xiaofu explained the effects of the profound yuan pill and berserk pill to Gu Zhangyu in detail. Under Gu Zhangyu's dumbfounded gaze, Du Xiaofu set a price that was twice as high as other pills of the same grade. Such good pills can save lives at critical moments. Isn't it too low to set a price that is only twice as low? Gu Zhangyu asked Du Xiaofu after recovering from his shock. He felt that it was still too low to set a price that was only twice as high. These pills could be of great use in times of danger, and could even save his life. Du Xiaofu looked at Gu Zhangyu for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, "Then let's set it twice as high. 3 times the price of pills of the same grade should be enough. Let's test the market first." "Alright, let's do it like that. A total of 3 times the price." Gu Zhangyu smiled knowingly. He felt that the profound yuan pill and berserk pill would definitely have a huge market. There's also this item. Take it and study it when you have time. Du Xiaofu passed a jade strip to Gu Zhangyu. It was the jade strip that allowed the medicine king to copy the puppet technique left behind by his master, the weapon sovereign. Gu Zhangyu's attainments as a medicine symbol master were neither too high nor too low in the Manchu. Du Xiaofu suddenly remembered that Gu Zhangyu was a weapon symbol master, so he let Gu Zhangyu try out the puppet technique first. It could be said that he was treating Gu Zhangyu as one of his own. "Thank you, President. I will take a look at it when I have time." Gu Zhangyu smiled gratefully and immediately kept the jade strip in his qiankuan bag. There were many things going on in the World Pavilion recently, so he didn't have time to look at it now. At this moment, how would Gu Zhangyu know that it was because of this jade strip that he became one of the top puppeteers in the entire central continent in just a short period of time? The puppets that he refined were hard to come by, and they were priceless. One day, with the support of the World Association, Gu Zhangyu would become a famous figure in the central continent. And all of Gu Zhangyu's achievements started with this jade strip. After giving some instructions, Du Xiaofu left the World Pavilion. He had to go to the sealed land tomorrow. He had just left the desolate ancient space, so he had to properly recover tonight. Today's update is complete. Fortunately, it didn't delay the update time. Chapter 674. The next morning, in the ancient heaven sect, the mountains under the white sky were as black as iron. Mist rose up and separated the mountains like a milky white veil. Everything was like a dream. A moment later, the sky was filled with red clouds and the rising sun. The golden light was dazzling as it enveloped a huge green mountain peak. Whoosh whoosh, the mountain peak was surrounded by clouds and mist. In the distance, the mountain range rose up and down. It was magnificent and boundless. An old man with a sage-like aura and a purple-robed youth descended from the sky. The old man had an ancient sword on his back and looked like a peerless expert. It was Elder Gu Qingyang of the ancient heaven sect. The purple-robed youth had a purple broadsword on his back. On his resolute face, his eyes were deep and clear. Apart from Du Xiaofu, there was no one else. Martial Uncle Qingyang, Xiaofu, you're here. In front of the mountain peak, there was a 7-foot-tall middle-aged man. His figure was thin, but he looked slender and sturdy. Looking at Elder Gu Qingyang and Du Xiaofu slowly descending from the sky, the man's glass-like eyes were filled with a smile. He wore a green robe with green patterns embroidered on it. His long black hair was neatly combed into a bun. A few strands of hair fell down from his ears. He was handsome and had a dignified temperament. Greetings, senior brother sect master. Du Xiaofu bowed. The middle-aged man was the sect master of the ancient heaven sect, Sima Taxing. Let's begin. Elder Gu Qingyang nodded to Sima Taxing and then looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes became serious as he instructed, Xiaofu, once you enter the sealed land, be careful. Don't put yourself in danger. If something goes wrong, come back immediately. Disciple understands. I'll pay more attention. Du Xiaofu nodded. Leave your spiritual soul power on it, just in case. We also know your situation. Sima Taxing handed a rune jade slip to Du Xiaofu. Chi, Du Xiaofu took the rune jade from Sima Taxing's hand. He formed a seal and placed his soul power on it. Be careful after you enter. Those who entered the sealed land in the past were all stronger than you. Don't be careless. Once you feel something is wrong, come out immediately. Don't take any risks. After taking the rune jade after Du Xiaofu's soul power, Du Xiaofu, Sima Taxing the rune jade. Du Xiaofu nodded and asked Sima taking Xing, sect master, where is the sealed place? Sima Taxing. His black hair. His black hair. And black taxing on the mountain, his black hair. His hair taxing his figure. His black hair. His black hair his hair, his black his dragon heaven star hair. Is. Black taxing. Here. Du Xiaofu was puzzled. He looked around. This mountain was above the main hall of the ancient heaven sect. In the distance, there were undulating mountains. Under the steep mountain, there seemed to be a bottomless abyss. It was so dark that nothing could be seen. Only fog-like water vapor flowed inside. It didn't seem like a sealed land. Elder Gu Qingyang signaled Du Xiaofu to look down the bottomless abyss and said, the sealed land is below. Below. Du Xiaofu looked at the black mist under the cliff. In the bottomless abyss, his vision was blocked. He couldn't see anything clearly and there were no energy fluctuations. It's below. You can see the sealed land when you go down directly. Only those who have comprehended the golden-winged rock beast ability can enter. Sima Taxing Xing said. Master, senior brother sect master, I will be careful. Don't worry too much. A moment later, Du Xiaofu jumped under the instructions of sect master Sima Taxing Xing and his master, Elder Gu Qingyang. His qi gushed out and wrapped around his body like a golden halo. he directly jumped into the bottomless abyss. Under the bottomless abyss, there was fog everywhere, which was extremely obstructive to vision. Whoosh, whoosh, his figure wrapped in chi slowly fell. There was a whooshing sound of airflow in his ears. After a long time, he seemed to have gone deep into the ground. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's figure stopped in the gray fog. Wrapped in the golden halo, he looked around and finally locked his eyes on the left side. He didn't move, and his figure flashed away. Whoosh, whoosh, the airflow whistled and the mist surged. Inside the bottomless abyss, the area was getting wider and wider. It seems to be inside. A moment later, in the vast gray mist, Du Xiaofu seemed to have found something under the keen perception of his spiritual soul power and the golden winged rock technique. His figure stopped in the gray mist. Du Xiaofu's clear eyes moved in his eye sockets, slightly concentrating. Qi La. After that, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows, and a tyrannical and fierce aura swept out from his body. In a short instant, a golden light flickered on his back, and a pair of golden rune wings stretched out. The wings flapped, flowing light overflowed and filled the air. The airflow whistled and shook, as if a real golden-winged rock had descended, suspended in the gray mist, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock clan. Whoosh, 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 at this moment, in the surrounding gray space, something seemed to be touched, and the clouds rolled and rippled. In the surrounding space, there were ripples, and a faint golden light spread out. Then, a spatial vortex appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. It's inside. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu's expression became even more serious. The golden rune wings on his back flapped, and his figure directly entered the spatial vortex. As Du Xiaofu's figure entered, the spatial vortex immediately returned to its original state. In the vast space, mountains stood tall. There was no lush green, but it was magnificent and desolate, as if this space had existed for countless years and came from ancient times. Whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in this space, and his eyes trembled. A huge invisible pressure enveloped his body in an instant. Under that terrifying pressure, it seemed to be able to completely crush a person in an instant. It was extremely domineering and fierce, and it was simply unbearable for ordinary people. Du Xiaofu immediately activated the golden-winged rock technique, and an aura that was similar to the domineering and fierce aura in this space swept out from his body. Only then did he feel that the pressure immediately disappeared. What a terrifying pressure! Du Xiaofu was shocked. Such a terrifying pressure was extraordinary. No wonder it was said that only those who were proficient in the abilities of the golden-winged rock technique could enter. Putting aside the fact that those who were not proficient in the abilities of the golden-winged rock technique could not enter, even those who were not proficient in the abilities of the golden-winged rock technique would find it extremely difficult to resist the terrifying pressure inside the sealed space. After recovering from his shock, Du Xiaofu formed a seal and called out the small tower from the ancient desolation space. Zhen Qingquan's illusory soul appeared in it. What power! It has something to do with the golden-winged rock technique. As soon as Zhen Qingquan emerged from the small tower, his face immediately changed. The domineering and fierce pressure even suppressed his soul. He immediately retreated into the small tower, and his voice rang out from the small tower, "This place has something to do with the experts of the golden-winged rock clan. This sealed space is no ordinary sealed space. If I've guessed correctly, this should be a soul seal." What's a soul seal? Du Xiaofu asked in confusion. The aura of the golden-winged rock technique immediately enveloped the small tower that Zhen Qingquan was hiding in. The seal of the soul is a great method that experts set up at the cost of their soul when they die. Generally speaking, no expert would easily set up a place where their soul is sealed at the cost of their soul, unless there is something that they want to protect or something. Within the small tower, Zhen Qingqing's mellow voice said to Du Xiaofu, "The place where the primordial spirit is sealed should have been set up by an expert of the golden-winged Great Pen clan before he died." The expert of the golden-winged rock clan was able to set up a soul seal, and it's still so powerful even after so many years. He must have been extremely powerful when he was alive, probably at a terrifying level. It does seem a little special. There seems to be something different in front. Du Xiaofu looked at the continuous mountain peaks in front of him. In the depths of the magnificent mountain range, there seemed to be a familiar aura slowly drifting over. The aura was domineering and fierce, but it seemed to be summoning him. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in a faint golden light as he released the aura of the golden-winged rock. His figure immediately swept forward. In the space, the deeper he went, the more clearly Du Xiaofu could feel that the enormous pressure was becoming more and more powerful. Without the protection of the golden-winged rock, even an ordinary martial king realm cultivator would be easily crushed by the pressure. They would not be able to resist the terrifying and domineering pressure at all. The space was vast, much larger than Du Xiaofu had imagined. He was careful and vigilant along the way. Fortunately, he had not encountered any danger. Be careful, there seems to be something wrong around here. Suddenly, Shen Qingquan's voice sounded from the small tower. Qi! Du Xiaofu's figure suddenly stopped in midair. His spiritual soul strength immediately probed the surroundings. Qi 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 qi, at the same time, the space in front of Du Xiaofu fluctuated. On top of a huge mountain peak in front of him, a dazzling light of runes suddenly bloomed. An extremely fierce aura swept out like a storm. I've been outside for the past few days. I visited my relatives and also went to the hospital for a checkup. I just got home today, and the car journey was delayed. Therefore, the first chapter is only published now. Xiao Yu will be able to steadily update tomorrow. The few chapters that I owe everyone can be returned tomorrow or the day after. The remaining 2 chapters today will be published by Xiao Yu around 11:30 p.m. to 12 p.m. I'll let you guys know first so that you won't have to wait too long. Chapter 675. G. Amidst the dazzling runes, a huge white goose flapped its wings and flew over. In an instant, it pierced through space and hovered in the air above Du Xiaofu. The aura of the huge white goose was very strong and terrifying. Its sharp eyes were like 2 red suns, bright and threatening. It's the white cloud demonic goose, a demonic beast on the heavenly beast ranking. Its ranking is not too high but not too low either. Luckily, it's not its original body and is only a remnant soul. It should be the remnant soul of a white cloud demonic goose that the elite from the Golden Rock clan had subdued. It was used to defend the primordial spirit seal. Shen Qingquan's voice traveled into Du Xiaofu's ears from the small tower and told Du Xiaofu the identity of the huge goose in front of him. The huge white cloud demonic goose hovered in the air and covered the sky. It flapped its wings and looked down at the mountains. Gee! The gigantic white cloud demon goose phantom let out a sharp cry. It flapped its wings and swept towards Du Xiaofu. As its wings flapped, the runes under its wings swept out. Its entire body was wrapped in a dazzling white light. It looked like rolling clouds and mist as it attacked Du Xiaofu. Skyshaker wings. Du Xiaofu made his move and used the skyshaker wings. His hand was like a fan and instantly swept towards the white cloud demonic goose. Walala, the skyshaker wings' domineering aura caused the huge white cloud demonic goose's eyes to tremble. There was a hint of fear in its eyes and it spat out runes from its sharp beak. It actually blocked Du Xiaofu's skyshaker wings. At the same time, the white cloud demonic goose flapped its wings and brought with it a terrifying storm. It was like an endless wave of ripples and directly charged towards Du Xiaofu. Rock descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu shouted and the wings on his back flapped violently. The sky was filled with golden light. Gee! The white cloud demon goose phantom seemed to have felt an incomparably fearful aura. It screeched and roared, and its sharp eyes were faintly filled with fear. Symbols rushed out and tore apart the vast sky. However, under Du Xiaofu's rock descends to the 9 heavens, which resembled the descent of a true golden-winged rock, the white cloud demon goose's illusory image began to be suppressed involuntarily, as if it was innately suppressed. Rumble. In such a collision, under the terrifying aura, large amounts of mountain rocks below were shattered. Dust and gravel shot up into the sky, the ground cracked, and huge rocks exploded, turning into fine powder. The golden talisman wings on Du Xiaofu's back flapped powerfully and domineeringly. They swept through the sky and suppressed with great force, destroying everything in their path. GG, the white cloud demon goose's phantom screeched, and its fierce eyes gradually became submissive. Then, its huge body burst out a series of broken runes in midair. The energy shot out like fireworks, causing the sky to be filled with resplendent light. In the dazzling light of the runes, a palm-sized white cloud demon goose appeared. The surrounding ripples fluctuated, and the energy fluctuations caused ripples in people's hearts. That's a strand of the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul. You've already suppressed its baleful aura, and what's left is pure beast soul energy. You're a soul symbol master, so if you can obtain it, it will be of great use. You can consume it to strengthen your spiritual energy, or you can refine symbol tools and Dao tools, increasing your power like a tiger that has grown wings. Zhen Qingquan's voice once again transmitted into Du Xiaofu's ears from the small pagoda. Pure beast soul energy, no need to be too complicated. At this moment, the golden light in Du Xiaofu's eyes had yet to disappear. Suddenly, the golden light in his eyes intensified, as if the illusory image of a golden-winged rock was soaring out of his eyes. The talisman wings on his back flickered, and a terrifying overbearing aura whistled through the sky. Soul Devour. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth, and a golden light spurted out from his throat like a suppressed volcano. In an instant, a terrifying energy gushed out, and like a nemesis, it directly wrapped around the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul in the air, and finally swallowed it into his mouth. Soul Devour, one of the golden-winged rock's ultimate techniques, could devour spiritual energy in spiritual energy. It was rumored that in ancient times, the golden-winged rock experts ate dragons as food, and could even devour dragon souls. How terrifying was that? Du Xiaofu cultivated the real golden-winged rock's techniques. Not long ago, when he comprehended the rock chaos-shattering claw, he also comprehended the soul devour, but he didn't have a suitable opportunity to use it. After devouring the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul, Du Xiaofu immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. His hands formed a seal, and his eyes closed. He began to refine the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul. He could use it to strengthen his spiritual energy and spiritual energy. Within this space, Du Xiaofu didn't have to worry about others coming in, so he could refine it without worry. After refining the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul, the ball of light condensed from spiritual energy in Du Xiaofu's mind slowly rotated. It was like a small star, and a strange energy spread out, releasing a dazzling light in his Naiwen palace. It illuminated the entire Naiwen palace, and its aura was ancient. Traces of the white cloud demon goose's remnant soul were refined by Du Xiaofu using the golden-winged rocks technique, and entered Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace in his mind. Then, the refined spiritual energy was guided by an invisible force in Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace. When it entered Du Xiaofu's Naiwen palace, the ball of light condensed from spiritual energy immediately became more solid and dazzling. The white cloud demon goose's remnant soul didn't seem big, but after being refined by Du Xiaofu, it was extremely large for Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation. Walala, 3 days later, a mysterious white light slowly enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. It was like a divine light, and it emitted an ancient pressure. Within his Naiwen palace, the ball of light condensed from spiritual energy had become much more solid, and its volume seemed to have increased by 1 size. The ancient aura that fluctuated from within his Naiwen palace was like the howling of wind and thunder. Compared to before, it was unknown how much more powerful it was. What a powerful spiritual energy! Once it condenses into a primordial spirit, how terrifying will it be? Zhen Qingchuan's voice sounded from within the small pagoda. Sensing the aura fluctuation that was spreading out from Du Xiaofu's body, Zhen Qingchun was also shocked. At this time, Du Xiaofu was only a 6-star talisman master, but his spiritual soul power at this moment was simply abnormal. It was enough to kill talisman masters at the same cultivation level. Huff! When the white light around Du Xiaofu's body gradually disappeared, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. He seemed to have also felt the changes within his Naiwen palace. His mouth was slightly astonished, and then a smile appeared on his face. Du Xiaofu's mind probed, and he discovered that the ball of spiritual energy within his Naiwen palace had become much more solid. The strength of his spiritual energy had also increased by a lot. The remnant soul of the demonic white cloud goose is really terrifying. If there were a few more of them, it would be of great help to my spiritual energy. Du Xiaofu said in a low voice. He could feel that the spiritual energy in his mind had increased by almost 50% compared to before. In your dreams. You are really greedy. Do you know how lucky you are to be able to absorb this remnant soul? Do you think that it's easy to strengthen your spiritual energy? Not every talisman master can do it. At this moment, hearing Du Xiaofu's underestimation, Zhen Qingchun couldn't help but speak out. This guy was definitely a typical example of greedy and insatiable. It should be known that for a soul symbol master, spiritual energy was absolutely the most important. How difficult was it to strengthen one's spiritual energy? Generally speaking, even if one obtained a remnant soul that was suitable for a soul symbol master to swallow and refine, one wouldn't be able to obtain too much energy. At most, 30% would be a miracle. It wasn't easy to swallow and refine it for one's own use. However, Du Xiaofu was different. He had directly swallowed and refined the remnant soul of the demonic white cloud goose. His spiritual energy had greatly increased, but he was still not satisfied. If other soul symbol masters had heard Du Xiaofu's previous words, it would have been enough to cause public anger. I hope that I can encounter such an opportunity again next time. Du Xiaofu knew the importance of spiritual energy to himself. As a soul symbol master, no matter if it was medicine symbol master, a race symbol master, or weapon symbol master, spiritual energy was definitely one of the most important factors. If one's spiritual energy was strong, it would be enough to show disdain for cultivators of the same level. If there is still such a remnant soul in this space, it will be a great opportunity for you. Just based on the remnant soul of the demonic white cloud goose that you obtained, it will be enough to make your trip worthwhile. Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. The Naiwen palace in his mind was already extremely strong to begin with. At this moment, it was strengthened once again. Above the ball of light that was condensed from his spiritual soul power, his mental energy was exceptionally abundant. Continue. After a while, Du Xiaofu continued to go deeper into the sealed space, following the aura that seemed to be calling him. The deeper he went into the space, the more powerful the pressure became. In the space ahead, there were even traces of golden light. In the space, the golden light was faintly discernible. It was blurry and extremely hazy. The space was also very quiet. It was deathly quiet. The pressure in the space became stronger and stronger. Even Du Xiaofu, who had activated the golden rock technique, found it more and more difficult to withstand the pressure. The pressure is getting stronger and stronger. Du Xiaofu fully activated the golden rock technique's aura to resist the pressure on his body and continued to go deeper into the space. Chapter 676. But the deeper Du Xiaofu went in, the more uncomfortable he felt. He was starting to feel like he was being suppressed. The power is too strong. We seem to be getting closer to something. Zhen Qingchun, who was inside the small pagoda, also felt the terrifying pressure outside and sensed some changes. I can feel something calling out to me. It seems to have something to do with the golden winged rock. Du Xiaofu said to his brother Zhen Qingchun. Be careful. don't be careless. Zhen Qingchun reminded Du Xiaofu. The pressure in this space was causing him to be tense as well. That is. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu saw something special at the foot of a mountain. Immediately, he dashed down. There was a dried corpse at the foot of the mountain. The robe on the body was draped over the dried corpse. It seemed like this person had been dead for tens of years. Someone from the Manchu. Du Xiaofu saw the badge on the corpse's robe, which indicated that it was a disciple of the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu guessed that this person should be one of the people who had entered this space previously. He should be one of the people who had mastered the golden winged rock. But Lin Fan did not know why this person had fallen in this sealed ground. After checking the dried corpse, Du Xiaofu bowed down. It was a greeting to the dead. It was also a greeting to a senior from the Manchu. Senior, it would be a waste for you to carry your Qiankuan pouch with you. Why don't you hand it over to me? After taking the Qiankuan pouch from the dried corpse, Du Xiaofu went deeper into the space. After walking for a long time, a gigantic mountain appeared before Du Xiaofu. The gigantic mountain stood tall amongst the other mountains. It was extremely majestic. Boom! Just as Du Xiaofu appeared before the gigantic mountain, the entire mountain trembled violently. Then, the entire space trembled as well. Suddenly, the space trembled as a golden light flashed. What's that? At this moment, Du Xiaofu stopped and looked at the huge mountain in front of him. At this moment, the golden light on the mountain peak became more and more dazzling. Then, mysterious runes flickered and emitted a blazing light. At the top of the last mountain peak, an enormous golden-winged rock flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Gee! The golden-winged peng let out a cry, its voice piercing through the clouds like rolling thunder, causing the space to fluctuate. The surrounding mountain peaks were on the verge of collapsing. The golden light was dazzling, and the entire world was trembling. Walala! The golden-winged rock spread its wings, covering the sky and the sun. Its entire body was shining with golden light. As its wings flapped, the spatial airflow swept out like a storm, causing the surrounding space to seem as if it was about to collapse. Around the figure of the golden-winged peng, there were mysterious runes that covered the sky and the sun. Its ferocious aura covered the entire space. Looking at it from afar made one's heart tremble. That huge golden-winged rock was too huge. Du Xiaofu felt that it was much bigger than the golden-winged rock he saw in the Savage Beast mountain range. Its aura was very terrifying. Du Xiaofu raised his head. The blood in his body was boiling for no reason. The pressure that spread from the gigantic golden-winged peng made it difficult for him to resist. The gigantic golden-winged peng's huge eyes were filled with golden light like the sun. It was directly looking down on Du Xiaofu. Its aura was vast and mighty, and its aura was incomparably domineering. Gee! A cry resounded, and the terrifying golden-winged peng disappeared from the sky above the mountain peak. The entire space returned to silence, as if nothing had happened. Golden-winged peng, that's the aura of the real golden-winged peng. There must be something related to the golden-winged peng on that mountain peak. From the small pagoda in Du Xiaofu's embrace, Du Xiaofu's voice sounded out in shock. Why did it disappear? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Under the terrifying aura just now, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that there was something related to the golden-winged peng on the mountain peak. It was extremely likely that it was an absolute treasure. Chi. With a slight movement of his eyes, the golden rune wings on Du Xiaofu's back flapped, and he immediately flew into the sky. Chi. Suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu's figure flew out, ripples suddenly appeared in the space in front of him. A dazzling rune flashed out, and like a shockwave, it fiercely smashed into Du Xiaofu's body. The energy was too powerful. It pushed Du Xiaofu back by over 30 meters, causing Du Xiaofu to be surprised. Chi. Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and frowned. The wings on his back shone brightly as he flapped them with all his might and charged forward, wanting to try again. Whoosh, however, the result was the same as before. A wave of rune energy rushed out from the space in front of him and heavily engulfed Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu was unable to resist the terrifying power and was forced back. What a powerful seal! This seal wasn't created by the golden-winged Peng. It was created by someone. Du Xiaofu stabilized his body. The aura in his body surged, and his aura was slightly chaotic. The energy was just too powerful. However, Du Xiaofu had already noticed that there was a seal in front of him. However, the seal had nothing to do with the golden-winged Peng. That was why he couldn't enter. Zhen Qingquan's voice came out from the small pagoda in Du Xiaofu's arms. The seal was created by someone on purpose. It doesn't have much attacking power. It should only be used to prevent everyone from entering. I don't believe that I can't enter. There was something related to the golden-winged Peng on the mountain peak. Du Xiaofu naturally wouldn't give up. Even if there was a seal, it might not be able to stop him. Qi. As soon as he finished speaking, he formed a hand seal. Du Xiaofu activated the vain spirit of the Five Fingers Mountain. Amidst the golden light, his figure merged into the vain spirit and immediately headed for the seal in front of him. The vain spirit of the Five Fingers Mountain wasn't afraid of any ordinary seals or talisman arrays. Now that there was a seal blocking it, Du Xiaofu wasn't too worried. Chi 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 chi, the phantom of the Five Fingers Mountain flew across the sky and touched the seal. Immediately, dazzling runes rushed out and blocked the phantom of the Five Fingers Mountain. Dazzling light shone as the symbols made contact, shooting into the air. The illusory image of the Five-Finger Mountain appeared in the sky. Golden light erupted, and mighty power poured into the sky, as if it wanted to break through the seal. The surrounding space rippled and caved in. However, no matter what, the Five-Finger Mountain illusionary vain spirit was unable to break through the last bit of the seal. This continued for a full hour. Dazzling runes erupted in midair, but the golden phantom of the Five-Fingered Mountain was still unable to break through the last layer of the seal. Chi-la-la, withdrawing his meridian spirit, Du Xiaofu staggered back a few steps in the air. His face was pale as he had consumed a lot of energy. To think that I can't pass through. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's gaze turned serious and he frowned slightly. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. He did not expect that he would still be unable to break through the seal even after activating his arterial spirit. He kept feeling that he was just a hair away. If his comprehension of the meridian spirit was a little stronger, Du Xiaofu felt that he would be able to break through the seal. In the small tower, Zhen Qingquan said, "This seal is not simple." It is not a simple seal. The power of the seal is also very strong. It is much stronger than your current strength. If Du Xiaoyao was here, he should be able to break through the seal with his original body. However, your meridian spirit is still a little weaker. Brother Qingquan, do you have any ideas? Du Xiaofu asked Zhen Qingquan. The power inside has a great impact on me. I'm afraid I can't help you break the seal. You can only rely on yourself. Zhen Qingquan continued, I'm afraid you can only find a way to break this seal. Even if you go out and find the experts of the ancient heaven sect, they won't be able to enter this sealed space. It seems that I can only find a way by myself. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly and looked at the towering mountain in front of him. The aura that was calling him was getting stronger and stronger. However, he could not enter the seal outside for the time being. I just felt your meridian spirit. If you can improve it, you may have a chance to break through the seal, Zhen Qingquan said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at the mountain in front of him and said softly, I feel the same. If I can improve my meridian spirit, I may have a chance to break through the seal. After a while, Du Xiaofu placed a simple seal in the cave of the mountain before the seal. Then, he directly called out the ancient desolate space. His figure flashed and entered the ancient desolate space. comprehend the meridian spirit well, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged and formed a seal. Suddenly, the meridian spirit phantom of the five-fingered mountain spread out behind him. It was shining with golden light and flickering runes, covering the mysterious runes. Walala, not long after, the meridian spirit phantom of the five-fingered mountain began to grow, evolve, and condense behind Du Xiaofu, whose eyes were already closed. The mysterious runes flickered and the meridian spirit phantom of the mountain seemed to be given life. It gradually produced dense spiritual energy around Du Xiaofu's body, evolving and arranging itself. It seemed to be endlessly mysterious. In order to break through the seal, Du Xiaofu planned to comprehend his meridian spirit well this time. If he could make progress in the meridian spirit phantom of the mountain, Du Xiaofu felt that he would have a chance to break through the extraordinary seal. The meridian spirit phantom of the mountain flickered and a terrifying power spread out. The golden light enveloped Du Xiaofu. The mysterious runes crisscrossed around Du Xiaofu's body. They grew, evolved, condensed, and produced dense spiritual energy. They communicated with the energy of heaven and earth, and multicolored light spread throughout the cave. As time passed, not many people knew that Du Xiaofu had entered the other sealed area. Even among the elders of the ancient heaven sect, not many people knew about it. However, on the fifth day after Du Xiaofu entered the sealed area, a major event occurred in the ancient heaven sect. Chapter 677. Two types of pills were released in the World Pavilion recently. They were the Berserk pill and the Xianyuan pill. These two types of pills were 3 times more expensive than other pills of the same level. Most people would scoff at them. However, under Gu Zhangyou's persuasion, a disciple who wanted to compete in the Sky Martial Plaza and a disciple who went out for an adventure were finally willing to try it. The two of them had each bought a Berserk pill and a Xianyuan pill. The result was obvious. The disciple who was fighting on the Tianwu Square had a similar cultivation level as his opponent. Even the level of the Dao artifact in his hand was similar. After exhausting his Dao artifact, he would consume a meridian Xianyuan pill to recover his full strength and defeat his opponent. The other disciple who went out for an adventure encountered a powerful demonic beast in the mountain range. His group was in danger, and the disciple consumed a Berserk pill. His strength increased by a level, and he heavily injured the demonic beast. The Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill's fame started to spread. Some people were skeptical, but they were willing to try it. After the experiment, the results were equally shocking. In an instant, the news of the Berserker pill and Profound Essence pill spread. Many disciples wanted to buy the Profound Essence pill and Berserker pill. On the 5th day, the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill's fame had spread throughout the ancient Sky sect. The shocking effects made all the disciples want to buy one in case they needed it in the future. However, it was said that there were only 10 Xianyuan pills and 10 Berserk pills in the World Pavilion. They had been sold out long ago. After a few more days, the disciples who bought the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill verified the shocking effects. The price of the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill soared again. The price of the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill gradually increased by 7 times in the ancient Sky sect's black market. The disciples who had the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill couldn't help but sell them through the ancient Sky sect's black market. After 10 days, the price of the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill had already reached 10 times the original price of the Xianyuan pill and Berserk pill. It was equivalent to 30 times the price of the same level of pills, but it was still being inflated. In World Pavilion, there was an endless stream of people every day. They were all asking when the Black Essence pill and Berserker pill would be in stock. Gu Zhangyu could only shake his head. The Black Essence pill and Berserker pill were currently out of stock. They were personally refined by the World Society's president, Martial Uncle Du. They could only be refined after Martial Uncle Du came out of seclusion. Although the World Pavilion no longer had any Berserk pills and Xianyuan pills, the business of the World Pavilion had been booming recently and it had attracted a lot of attention. However, This kind of booming business made Gu Zhangyu unable to be too happy. There weren't many alchemy talisman masters and artifact talisman masters in the world gathering. It could be said that there were very few of them and they couldn't support the World Pavilion's current business. It wouldn't be long before the World Pavilion would be faced with the predicament of having nothing to sell. All the alchemy symbol masters and weapons symbol masters in the Ancient Heavens sect had already been recruited by the various factions. It was basically impossible to find alchemy symbol masters and weapons symbol masters to join. At dusk, on the cliff of the mountain peak, the sun was setting in the west and the afterglow shrouded the peaks. Sima Taxing stood on the cliff with his hair and clothes fluttering in the wind. His face was handsome as he looked at the misty fog below the cliff and murmured, "Little guy, don't let anything happen to you." In the misty space of the ancient desolate space, golden light flickered and rippled out. 10 days had passed in the outside world. Du Xiaofu had been in the sealed land. Excluding the time spent refining the demonic white cloud goose's remnant soul and searching in the sealed land, he had been in the ancient desolate space for more than 2 months. Golden light flickered as the phantom of a 5-fingered mountain shrouded behind Du Xiaofu. If one looked carefully, the phantom of the mountain was formed by 5 peaks with uneven heights. They were like palms. Walala, the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain changed and grew behind Du Xiaofu. It evolved, condensed, and produced dense spiritual energy. It was extremely mysterious, Chi. Time passed again, and Du Xiaofu's aura was slowly rising. A few days later, when the aura that was rising from Du Xiaofu's body came to a stop, the shadow of the golden 5-fingered mountain behind him turned into runic symbols. Once it slowly entered his body, he opened his tightly shut eyes. Chi, in his deep and clear eyes, golden light flashed and an overbearing aura flashed. An extremely fierce and vigorous aura swept out from his body. "You seem to have made a lot of progress." Zhen Qingchuan's spirit appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. He looked at Du Xiaofu with numb shock. During this period of time, Zhen Qingchun was the one who was most aware of Du Xiaofu's improvement in meridian spirit. That speed involuntarily shocked him. "It seems that I have made a lot of progress." Du Xiaofu stood up and felt everything in his body. It was as if the pulse soul had gone through a baptism. If there was enough time, Du Xiaofu felt that it would not take long for him to have a breakthrough. It was very likely that he would directly step into the martial king realm. In this period of time, the pulse soul had shown signs of transformation. "Go and see if you can enter the seal. Be careful. There may be a great danger in the seal." Zhen Qingchun reminded Du Xiaofu. Swoosh swoosh. After a while, Du Xiaofu came out of the desolate ancient space and appeared in front of the huge mountain. He formed a hand seal and activated the 5-fingered mountain's pulse soul. He integrated it into the pulse soul and immediately headed toward the seal. Chi, the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain soared through the air and touched the seal. Dazzling runes suddenly rushed out from the seal and blocked the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain. Above the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain's pulse soul, golden runes soared into the sky and collided with the seal. When the 2 runes collided, the surrounding space was dented and dazzling light shot into the air. The phantom of the 5-fingered mountain soared through the sky and golden light erupted. Mighty power poured into the sky as if it wanted to break through the seal. At this moment, the power of the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain was obviously much stronger than a few days ago. This continued for about 15 minutes. In the dazzling runes in the air, the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain finally broke through the last layer of the seal. Chi, the phantom of the mountain broke through the seal. Du Xiaofu's figure followed the phantom of the pulse soul and directly pierced through the void. Then, his face turned pale. He had consumed a lot of energy. "I'm finally here." The phantom of the 5-fingered mountain's pulse soul disappeared. Du Xiaofu looked at the sky in front of him. The huge mountain was already in front of him. He had finally broken through the seal. There seems to be a palace on the peak of the mountain. Du Xiaofu looked at the mountain in front of him. The huge mountain was made of ancient rocks. Not even a blade of grass grew on it. It exuded a magnificent and ancient aura. At the peak of the mountain, an extremely huge palace appeared from afar. Swoosh swoosh, Du Xiaofu was cautious and on full alert as he began to soar through the air towards the enormous mountain peak. The huge palace was located on the peak of the mountain, like an ancient immortal palace. The closer he got, the more he felt that it was extremely vast. Du Xiaofu's figure landed in front of the palace. An inexplicable aura spread out from the depths of the palace as if it was summoning him. Without much hesitation, Du Xiaofu carefully stepped into the palace. The huge palace was majestic, but it was not gorgeous. Instead, it was extremely simple. However, one could feel an ancient aura. There are so many skeletons. They should be the disciples of the ancient heaven sect. Inside the palace, Du Xiaofu saw many skeletons along the way. There were more than 10 of them. Some of them had the insignia of the ancient heaven sect on their clothes. However, some of them seemed to have died a long time ago. Their clothes were rotten, and the insignia could not be seen. However, these skeletons were still intact. It proved that they were absolute experts when they were alive. Their skeletons would not rot easily. They were stronger than steel. Du Xiaofu bowed to these skeletons and began to check them one by one. However, he could not find a Qiankuan bag. It seemed that someone had already taken it. He continued to go deeper into the palace. Everything in the palace was quite simple. Following the inexplicable aura, Du Xiaofu quickly went deeper. Slowly, he saw energy fluctuations in the palace. In some of the cracks of the stones in the palace, spiritual herbs appeared. Multicolored light spread out. They were crystal clear and sparkling. It's the 9 stars vine. There's also the white leaf Ganoderma. I didn't expect there to be a blood nether gourd. Zhen Qingchuan's voice came from the small tower. He had spied on the aura of many spiritual herbs. He said with great surprise, there are so many spiritual herbs. They're all very high grade. They can be refined into grade 7 pills. The white leaf Ganoderma can also be refined into high-grade Xianyuan pills. There are so many spiritual herbs. Did someone cultivate them here? Du Xiaofu was also very surprised. He did not expect that there would be spiritual herbs in the cracks of the palace. It's not done by someone. There's a special treasure here that emits the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After a long time, these extraordinary spiritual herbs have been bred, Zhen Qingchun said to Du Xiaofu. I've picked them. Fortunately, Du Xiaoyao is not here. Du Xiaofu did not hesitate. He directly put all the mature spiritual herbs into his Qiankuan bag. He secretly thought that it was fortunate that Du Xiaoyao was not here. Otherwise, half of these good things would definitely be taken away by Du Xiaoyao. However, looking at these spiritual herbs, Du Xiaofu could not help but think of Du Xiaoyao. During this period, he really missed that guy more and more. Chapter 678. Du Xiaofu kept the spiritual herbs into his Qiankuan bag. Almost all of the spiritual herbs were extraordinary and could be used to create high-grade elixirs. There were even spiritual herbs that could be used to create the Xianyuan elixir and Berserker elixir. If this batch of spiritual herbs was placed in the outside world, it would be enough for people to fight over. Swoosh! A sword light swept down from the sky. The sword light whistled and caused the space to tremble. Be careful! Zhen Qingchun shouted to Du Xiaofu from the small pagoda. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu's figure instantly swept out in an arc and dodged the sword light. Luckily, the sword light did not strike again. After that, Du Xiaofu looked up and saw that in the void in front of him, there was a spiritual sword floating in the middle of a talisman. Buzz buzz! The spiritual sword was moving. It let out a buzzing sound and its aura spread. Its aura was not below that of the Fuyao heaven shaking fan and buying. The spiritual sword floated in the void. The talisman was shining brightly. It seemed to be looking at Du Xiaofu. The buzzing sound of the sword did not stop. High-grade peak Dao artifact. It seems to be evolving by itself. It has already reached the level of a half-magic artifact. It is starting to have a sword spirit. Zhen Qingchen said to Du Xiaofu. He felt the power of the spiritual sword. It was a half-magic artifact level spiritual sword. Half-magic artifact. It is definitely a treasure. Du Xiaofu exclaimed. The power of this spiritual sword was now stronger than buying and the Fuyao heaven shaking fan. This is an ownerless item. You can keep it in your bag. Zhen Qingchen reminded Du Xiaofu. He said wretchedly, a half-magic artifact is not cheap. Even if you don't need it, you can leave it for someone else. It is also good to exchange it for some high-grade elixirs. Du Xiaofu smiled. Naturally, he would not let go of an ownerless semi-magic tool. Don't try to forcibly take the semi-magic item. This spirit sword has already begun to nurture a sword spirit. If it is not a Dao, talisman, or spirit weapon, you cannot forcibly take it. You can only take it after obtaining its approval. Forcibly taking it will only destroy its sword spirit. After obtaining it, its power will be greatly reduced. In the end, you will only obtain a high-grade Dao. Zhen Qingchen reminded Du Xiaofu not to forcibly take the spirit sword. It was impossible to forcibly take the spirit sword. Otherwise, its power would be greatly reduced. Only someone with super strength could forcibly imprison the sword spirit and take the spirit sword into the spirit sword without damaging its power. Then how should we collect it? Du Xiaofu was just about to forcibly take it when he heard Zhen Qingchen's words. He immediately stopped and asked Zhen Qingchen. Hearing this, Zhen Qingchen immediately said to Du Xiaofu, use your spiritual soul power to communicate with it. If you can obtain its approval, you will naturally be able to take it. If you can't obtain its approval, then you can only forcibly take it, unless you are willing to let it go. Du Xiaofu smiled. How could he not take the treasure when he saw it? He immediately acted according to what Zhen Qingchen said. He began to communicate with the spirit sword, hoping to obtain its approval and then take it into his pocket. However, the result was somewhat different from what Du Xiaofu had imagined. No matter how hard he tried, he could not obtain the approval of the spirit sword. Du Xiaofu's spiritual soul power fluctuated and wrapped around the spirit sword. It even made the spirit sword emit a more and more fierce sword hum. The mysterious runes on the spirit sword were dazzling. It could attack Du Xiaofu at any time. How is this possible? I am so talented, but I still can't obtain the approval of the spirit sword. Du Xiaofu was somewhat aggrieved. He could not accept that he could not obtain the approval of the spirit sword. This was a blow to his confidence. Obtaining the approval of the spirit sword is a kind of opportunity. It has nothing to do with you. It seems that you don't have such an opportunity. Zhen Qingchen said to Du Xiaofu. For some reason, there was a hint of happiness in his voice. For Zhen Qingchen, being able to see Du Xiaofu encounter something that he could not get his way made him feel inexplicably happy. This proved that this kid was not omnipotent. There were times when he would be defeated. This spirit sword should have been left behind by an expert of the ancient sky sect. Could it be that I need the ancient sky sect's cultivation method to communicate with it? Du Xiaofu did not give up and frowned slightly. This spirit sword was most likely left behind by an expert of the ancient sky sect in this sealed place. If he used the ancient sky sect's cultivation method to communicate with it, he might be able to succeed. However, Du Xiaofu did not practice the cultivation method of the ancient sky sect at all. He had been practicing the cultivation method of the golden-winged rock. Oh, right. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched. He seemed to have thought of something. He formed a hand seal and used his hand as a sword. Sword rays swept out from his hand. The sword rays overlapped and spread out. The spirit sword floating in the air seemed to have sensed something. Suddenly, the sword trembled and flashed with brilliance. Then, it moved along with the sword rays in Du Xiaofu's hand. The two moved at the same time, and sword rays swept out. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was using a sword move from the Bright Saint Sword Manual. Using his hand as a sword, the sword rays swept out and moved towards the spirit sword floating in the air. The spirit sword screeched and was extremely cheerful. It began to dance along with Du Xiaofu's sword move, and it was getting closer and closer to Du Xiaofu. Whoosh, whoosh, when Du Xiaofu finished using the sword move from the Bright Saint Sword Manual, the spirit sword screeched and bloomed with brilliance. It also directly floated in front of Du Xiaofu. Strands of talisman markings rippled on the spirit sword, causing its fierce aura to vanish completely, and it started to become extremely intimate with Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu reached out and held the spirit sword in his hand. Then, a slight smile appeared on his face. A semi-ritual spirit sword was finally in his pocket. This kid actually succeeded. Zhen Qingquan's murmur was heard. He seemed to be rather unhappy. Hee. Du Xiaofu smiled. He didn't expect that using the sword move from the Bright Saint Sword Manual would really be able to communicate with the Spirit Sword Manual. It seemed that the original owner of this Spirit Sword Manual had also cultivated the Bright Saint Sword Manual. After putting away the semi-ritual spirit sword, Du Xiaofu didn't intend to recognize it as its owner right now. Du Xiaofu knew that he had the Tyrant Shadow in his hand. Although the spirit sword's current level of power was slightly stronger than the Tyrant Shadow, it was not necessarily stronger than the Tyrant Shadow. Moreover, it was likely that it was not tailor-made for him like the Tyrant Shadow. In addition, for Du Xiaofu, in addition to the Tyrant Shadow, he also had the purple gold heavenly tower on his back. No matter how strong this spirit sword was, it naturally couldn't be stronger than the purple gold heavenly tower. After putting away the semi-ritual spirit sword, Du Xiaofu only thought of leaving it for his big sister or Ouyang Shuang. Perhaps it would be good to exchange it for some other treasures in the future. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu continued to follow the aura that was calling him deeper into the palace. He was very careful and didn't encounter any more dangers. His journey was quite smooth and he arrived at a majestic hall. The hall was very spacious, with an area of several hundred meters. It was tall and majestic. Inside the hall, an old man who looked to be in his 50s was sitting cross-legged. He wore a wide golden robe and his eyes were closed. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of golden light. The golden light was rather dim and strangely didn't have any aura fluctuations. It was as if a weak golden flame was wrapped around his body. That person has already gone mad. He's relying on burning the spirit qi in his body to protect his last trace of consciousness. What powerful strength! If I were at my peak, I'm afraid I would only be a level stronger than him. Zhen Qingquan's shocked voice came from the small pagoda in Du Xiaofu's arms. Sitting cross-legged in the hall was an old man in a golden robe who seemed to have passed away. Although there wasn't any aura fluctuations, he was definitely a top expert. However, Du Xiaofu's gaze wasn't fixed on the old man in the golden robe. Instead, it was fixed on an ancient stone platform in the hall. The stone platform was more than 10 meters in size and was densely covered with ancient runes. On the stone platform, there was a pair of wings that were spread out. The wings were spread out and placed quietly on the ancient stone platform. The wings were covered in layers of golden feathers. There wasn't any aura flowing, but it made one's heart tremble for no reason and want to crawl on the ground before it. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the golden wings on the stone platform. The runes on the feathers were densely covered and revealed a mystery. They began to fluctuate. There was an invisible aura spreading out from the golden wings. The formless aura was very familiar to Du Xiaofu. It was the aura that had been guiding him in this sealed land. This aura was calling out to him, and it came from within the golden wings. Boom! Suddenly, it seemed that Du Xiaofu's aura had touched the golden wings on the stone platform. There was a dazzling golden light that shot up into the sky. In an instant, the golden wings began to shine with golden light. The golden light flowed like a golden torrent that hung in the hall, carrying an incomparably domineering and fierce aura. The golden light on the golden wings became more and more dazzling. The runes on the golden wings flickered and a blazing light was emitted. Then, the shadow of a huge golden-winged rock flapped its wings and flew up into the sky. Screech! The screech of the golden-winged rock pierced through the clouds. The entire hall and the huge mountain trembled. Whoosh! The golden-winged rock spread its wings and its entire body shone with golden light. It made the huge hall seem as if it was about to be destroyed. Its ferocious aura spread out and made people tremble in fear. What a powerful aura! Du Xiaofu was shocked. At this moment, all the blood in his body was boiling for no reason. The aura that spread out from the huge golden-winged rock made Du Xiaofu want to crawl on the ground and tremble. The terrifying aura was too powerful. One more update, Xiaoyu is writing. Chapter 679. Du Xiaofu cultivated the path of the golden-winged rock. At this moment, he could feel even more how terrifying that might was. Inside the hall, the gigantic golden-winged rock that filled the entire hall looked down at Du Xiaofu with its huge eyes that were as bright as the sun, shining with golden light. It was as if a bolt of golden lightning was staring down at him. The aura of the golden-winged rock was incomparably domineering, causing Du Xiaofu to feel as if he had been struck by lightning. Ah! Du Xiaofu couldn't help but scream. At this moment, he felt as if something was burning in his chest. His blood was boiling as if it was going to destroy his body. Boom boom, like thunder, the terrifying golden-winged rock's eyes shot out two golden lightning-like rays of light and landed directly in Du Xiaofu's eyes. The dazzling light was as bright as the sun. Du Xiaofu immediately wanted to close his eyes. However, under the golden light, Du Xiaofu was shocked to find that he couldn't close his eyes. His body was already filled with the dazzling golden light. Within the dazzling light, there seemed to be two phantoms of golden-winged rocks appearing. They entered Du Xiaofu's eyes and turned into countless mysterious runes. They spread out in Du Xiaofu's eyes, causing him to feel dizzy and his consciousness to stagnate. The golden wings of the golden rock. These are the real golden wings of the golden rock. Zhen Qingquan's voice came from the small pagoda in Du Xiaofu's arms. However, Du Xiaofu didn't hear Zhen Qingquan's voice. His eyes slowly closed. He stood there quietly. Du Xiaofu's current state was similar to that of the old man in the golden robe who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. When Du Xiaofu regained his consciousness, he found himself in a golden whirlpool. Walala, the huge whirlpool spun like a black hole that led to the underworld. The aura around it made one's soul tremble. The golden whirlpool was very deep. Du Xiaofu felt as if he was falling from the ninth heaven. The golden light became more and more dazzling, producing a buzzing sound of wind and thunder, as if a golden-winged rock was roaring. Roar, woo woo, moo. Suddenly, there were all kinds of beasts roaring in the golden whirlpool. Then, terrifying demonic beasts roared and wanted to pounce out of the golden whirlpool. There were terrifying demonic beasts. There were ferocious birds and powerful beasts. They were all roaring. Their eyes were like lightning. They were unwilling to give up. Each and every one of these terrifying demonic beasts was an absolutely terrifying existence. In fact, most of the demonic beasts were existences that Du Xiaofu had never seen before. However, the frightening and ferocious pressure that radiated from them was comparable to the demonic beasts ranked at the top of the heavenly beast list. The demonic beasts were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. If any of them were released to the outside world, they would be able to cause rivers of blood. However, they seemed to be the last remnant souls left in the golden whirlpool. These demonic beasts were all earth-shattering existences when they were alive. However, they had been killed by the golden rock. They could only roar in the golden whirlpool, unwilling to give up. The golden whirlpool was like a whirlpool where time and space flowed backwards. Du Xiaofu fell into it and saw countless shocked beasts from the ancient times. They were all roaring as if they were alive. Their aura was terrifying. In the golden whirlpool, the aura from the golden rock grew stronger. As a practitioner of the golden winged rock's cultivation method, Du Xiaofu clearly knew that without the protection of the golden winged rock's aura, a martial king realm practitioner would be crushed like an ant in the golden vortex. He would not be able to withstand such a terrifying pressure at all. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that not only was he not suppressed, but he also felt a sense of familiarity. Rumble, in the end, Du Xiaofu felt as if he had fallen into a boundless space. The space trembled incessantly, and it was a boundless expanse. Then, in the vast space, a golden light shot out from the vast sea of clouds. The golden light spread and countless talisman runes were faintly discernible. These golden talisman runes were all incomplete. However, they did not dissipate. The aura was so domineering that it made Du Xiaofu's heart tremble. So powerful. Du Xiaofu felt as if he was about to explode from the pressure. Such a terrifying pressure was too terrifying, too domineering, and too sharp. The Golden Rock's Talisman Runes. These are the Golden Rock's Talisman Runes. Du Xiaofu was astonished as he looked at the dense talisman runes in the vast space. They were the true Golden Winged Rock's runes, and they came from the real Golden Winged Rock. Whoosh, in the vast space, the broken golden talisman runes flashed. The golden light was dazzling, like countless golden lightning flashing. Finally, they lined up in the sky. Rumble, a golden rock's shadow appeared and hovered in the sky as if it was looking down on the world. It flapped its wings and covered the sky, suppressing the world. Whoosh, then, the golden rock's shadow dissipated and turned into talisman runes again. However, it turned into a pair of pure golden rock's golden wings again. The golden rock spread its wings and covered the sky. It was as if it could cover the ancient times. Then, it disappeared again. This is the golden rock's beast energy. It's letting me comprehend it. It's imparting the supreme beast energy to me. Du Xiaofu was shocked. This was the golden rock's talisman imparting the supreme beast energy to him. The golden talisman runes that didn't dissipate kept changing in this vast space. They were arranged and evolved. Du Xiaofu felt that these talisman runes were related to him. It was a connection that came from his blood and soul. It was endless and continuous. Du Xiaofu was stunned. His mind was immersed in the transformation of the talisman runes. He comprehended the transformations of the golden talisman runes and the vast space. He comprehended everything. In an instant, it was as if he had traveled through hundreds and thousands of years. Whoosh, the golden talisman runes changed. As they were arranged, it was like the sound of wind and thunder. The golden talisman runes turned into a pair of golden wings. It was as if it could fly up 90,000 miles and shake the universe. The golden talisman runes turned into a complete phantom of the golden rock. It could suppress the ancient times and suppress all living things. The golden talisman runes turned into a sharp claw. It could tear apart the sky and crush the stars. Everything was incomparably domineering and shocking all living things. The phantom of the golden rock seemed to be looking down on the earth. The vast space began to tremble. The sound of wind and thunder could be heard. Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in the comprehension of this incomparably domineering golden rock. He entered a state of enlightenment and was completely immersed in it. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was exploring the supreme beast energy of the golden rock. He was exploring the many mysteries of the golden rock's domineering aura. In the vast hall, Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut. His body gradually began to emit dense golden talisman runes. These golden talisman runes were connected to the hall. The golden talisman runes changed. Then, as if they were being pulled, they began to approach the pair of wings of the golden rock on the ancient stone platform. Walala, on the ancient stone platform, the golden wings of the golden rock also began to emit a golden radiance. The runes flickered in the hall. Strands of mysterious golden talisman runes fluctuated and finally condensed with the golden talisman runes in Du Xiaofu's body. Boom! At this moment, the entire hall trembled violently. It was as if something terrible had happened. Rumble! At this moment, on the main peak of the ancient heaven sect, the huge palace trembled. A thunderous sound resounded in the sky above the ancient heaven sect. The astonishing sound alarmed many people in the ancient heaven sect. In the mountains, some people looked up at the sky in surprise. They didn't know where the thunderous sound came from, but it didn't resound again. Walala! Under the cliff of the mountain, in the bottomless abyss, the grey mist suddenly trembled violently. Then, a dazzling golden light burst out, but it disappeared in the end. Whoosh whoosh, in a short time, two figures landed on the cliff of the mountain. They were Sima Taxing and Elder Gu Qingyang. The two figures landed, and their eyes fell on the bottomless abyss. It's the movement below. Did something happen in the sealed area? Sima Taxing frowned. He was uneasy. The trembling and thunderous sound just now came from the bottomless abyss. There was a space related to the golden winged rock inside the sealed area. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was inside. I hope Xiaofu is okay. Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes were solemn and worried. He was worried that his disciple was in danger in the sealed area. This kid is actually comprehending the golden winged rock runes on the golden rock's wings. The golden rock's wings are not left by an ordinary golden winged rock. It's a great opportunity, a really great opportunity. In the vast hall of the sealed area, Zhen Qingxuan's voice came from the small pagoda in Du Xiaofu's arms. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's whole body was wrapped in golden rune light. It was like a miracle. It was incomparably mysterious. The golden light flowing all over his body revealed many mysteries. Walala! At this moment, the body of the old man in golden robes, who was seated cross-legged in the large hall, actually began to fluctuate with a golden glow at an unknown time. Wave after wave of domineering and sharp aura began to spread out from the old man's body. Readers, today's update is complete. Chapter 680. In the vast space, golden light shone brightly. The talisman kept changing, displaying the supreme golden winged rock's inherited beast energy. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt as if he'd become a true golden winged rock that soared into the sky, flapped his wings, and intended to soar into the sky, look down upon the world, and crush all living beings. Du Xiaofu could feel that the runes were fusing with him. They began to fuse into his mind, becoming one with him, fusing into his bloodline and penetrating deep into his soul. On the main peak of the ancient heaven sect, there was a mountain range in the distance. Under the cliff, it was foggy. On the cliff, at dusk, an old man and a middle-aged man stood with their hands behind their backs. The old man was covered with an ancient sword. He looked like an immortal, and his white beard fluttered in the wind. The middle-aged man's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes shone brightly, and he looked down on the world. It's already been 3 months, on the cliff, Elder Gu Qingyang frowned. He was very serious. There was still no news after 3 months. Elder Gu Qingyang couldn't help but worry about his disciple's situation. The sealed land was too dangerous. Those who weren't proficient in the golden winged rock's beast energy couldn't enter. The sealed land has existed for a long time. It was said that it existed not long after the ancient heaven sect was founded. There has always been a sect rule that the sealed land can't be forcefully entered. Only the fated ones can enter. After so many years, many disciples have died inside. Sima Taxing smiled bitterly. His glassy eyes also frowned. He hesitated for a while and said to Elder Gu Qingyang, I believe that Xiaofu will be fine. The golden-winged rock's beast energy he comprehended is different from others. He has both the form and the soul. Maybe he's the fated one in the sealed land. At least the jade scroll that he left behind hasn't changed. I hope so. Elder Gu Qingyang sighed softly. After all, Xiaofu is only at the peak of the martial lord realm. Many sovereigns have died in that sealed land. I hope he'll be fine. Martial uncle, let's go back. I believe that kid will be fine. That ferocious guy is not someone to be trifled with. After coming to our ancient heaven sect, he has harmed a lot of people. As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but scourges live for thousands of years. That kid doesn't look like someone who will die. Sima Taxing Star said to Elder Gu Qingyang with a faint smile. I hope. Elder Gu Qingyang's ruddy face squeezed out a bitter smile. Now, he could only continue to wait. Then, the two of them looked at the sky that was gradually darkening. The red clouds covered the sky and were about to leave. Boom! Just as the two of them were about to leave, the sound of thunder suddenly resounded from the bottom of the cliff. Then, a gray mist rose into the sky, and an intense energy fluctuation rose from the bottom of the cliff. Whoosh! Along with the sound of the thunder, the energy between heaven and earth in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something and began to gather crazily at the bottom of the cliff. In the afterglow of the setting sun, a large number of disciples in the ancient heaven sect raised their heads to look at a certain place in the sky. They looked in the direction of the thunder and looked at the main peak. What's going on? As Elder Gu Qingyang looked at the changes occurring at the bottom of the 10,000-foot tall cliff, this sudden change caused him to be shocked. This unforeseen change originated from the sealed area at the bottom of the 10,000-foot tall cliff. Sima Taxing Star did not say anything. His glass-like eyes flashed with a bright light. His mental and soul power seemed to have been focused on the bottom of the cliff. He frowned slightly. Whoosh! The energy of heaven and earth gathered and formed a vortex of energy storm at the bottom of the cliff. There seemed to be something terrifying below that was devouring a large amount of the restricted area. It might be related to Du Xiaofu. The energy fluctuation came from the sealed land. A moment later, Sima Taxing Star's glass-like eyes flashed as he stared at the bottom of the cliff. Elder Gu Qingyang looked at the shockingly violent energy fluctuations around him and said with a frown, this energy fluctuation is very strong. It's difficult for a martial king to cause it. Xiaofu is only at the martial marquis realm. I'm afraid it's impossible for him to cause such a terrifying movement. Hearing this, Sima Taxing Star said to Elder Gu Qingyang, Martial uncle, don't forget. Although that kid is at the martial marquis realm, his strength is so strong that even Muha can't contend against him. Rumble, as the two of them spoke, the energy fluctuations between heaven and earth continued. At the same time as the energy of heaven and earth gathered and poured into the vortex, a domineering aura began to seep out from the terrifying energy vortex at the bottom of the cliff. The domineering and unparalleled energy aura continued to emit a golden light that shot into the sky. Looking from afar, it was as if a sun was about to rise from the bottom of the cliff. The gray mist was dyed into golden clouds, shining brightly, as if a sea of golden clouds was rippling. The golden light shot out and enveloped a large area of the ancient heaven sect. It was extremely magnificent when people looked up. That's the main peak. What happened? It seems to be a movement from the main peak. What a domineering aura. At this moment, many disciples of the ancient heaven sect rushed out and looked in the direction of the main peak. There was a golden light soaring into the sky, and a domineering aura descended from the sky. Countless shocked gazes looked at the sky. The golden light soared into the sky, accompanied by the domineering aura. It made the meridians and souls in people's bodies tremble involuntarily. The golden light grew stronger and stronger, and the energy became more and more domineering. It was as if a sun was about to rise from the east. The golden light burst out and illuminated the mountains. Whoosh whoosh, at this moment, the ancient heaven sect was gone. Many experts soared into the sky, and many elders and protectors began to rush to the main peak. This was the first time such a phenomenon had appeared in the ancient heaven sect. It was shocking. Boom, the wind and clouds surged, and the dazzling golden light soared into the sky. The golden light was boundless, and the golden light flowed like countless golden ribbons, hanging above the sky. Suddenly, a large number of eyes looked up at the sky. The blazing golden light was emitted, and a huge golden-winged rock phantom flapped its wings and spiraled out. It soared into the sky as if it wanted to soar into the sky. Screech, the golden-winged rock screeched, and the sound waves pierced through the clouds. It spread its wings, and its entire body was shining with golden light. Its ferocious aura spread out, causing the entire space to tremble. What a terrifying power! It's irresistible. What a strong pressure. That's the golden-winged rock. All the disciples of the ancient heaven sect trembled at this moment. The demonic beast meridians and souls in their bodies were crawling for no reason. They were irresistible, as if they were worshipping a supreme being. The terrifying pressure was too powerful. Gu Qingyang, Sima Taxing, and many elders and protectors landed on the main peak. They looked up at the golden-winged rock phantom on the cliff, and their eyes trembled. This aura. Is that guy breaking through to the martial king realm? Sima Taxing's eyes suddenly trembled, and a bright light shot out. He felt the aura spreading from the bottom of the cliff, and it seemed that the aura was breaking through. What's going on? Is someone breaking through down there? The golden-winged rock. Is it related to Du Xiaofu? It seems that only he has comprehended the beast ability of the golden-winged rock. The elders and protectors of the ancient heaven sect were also shocked at this time. The aura of the golden-winged rock phantom was too fierce and overbearing. With the appearance of the golden-winged rock phantom, a majestic aura also rose directly from the bottom of the cliff, like a volcanic eruption, which shocked all the experts of the ancient heaven sect on the main peak. It seems that someone is breaking through to the martial king realm. The aura of the early stage of the martial king realm seems to be more powerful than that of the complete martial king realm. Rumble. The heavens and the earth trembled violently once again. Under the shadow of the golden-winged rock, a dazzling patch of golden talisman markings spread out once again. After that, they evolved, arranged, and derived in the sky. In the end, they transformed into a golden five-fingered mountain shadow. Boom! When the phantom of the five-fingered mountain appeared, it absorbed the endless energy of heaven and earth, and the talisman mysterious runes surged, as if it had been tempered thousands of times, like a living thing. The phantom of the golden mountain released a dazzling golden light, and endless momentum swept across the sky. Rumble. Suddenly, for some unknown reason, in the mountains of the ancient heaven sect, the earth rumbled, and the continuous mountain peaks trembled. That's the pulse soul of Du Xiaofu's mountain. The pulse soul has transformed. That's Du Xiaofu's pulse soul. Du Xiaofu is breaking through to the martial king realm. That guy is breaking through to the martial king realm at the bottom of the cliff, which has caused such a terrible movement. What a monster! At this moment, all the elders and protectors on the main peak trembled violently. At this moment, almost everyone could be sure that all the violent movements at this time were inseparably related to Du Xiaofu. It was caused by that guy. The pulse soul has transformed. That guy is going to step into the martial king realm. At this moment, Sima Taxing's eyes were also rippling. The phantom of the mountain was changing. It was transforming. Many talented people could not take this step in their lives, but Du Xiaofu had done it easily. He was already breaking through to the martial king realm. Du Xiaofu is fine. He is stepping into the martial king realm. Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes were filled with excitement. His disciple was fine. It seemed that he had obtained a great opportunity in the sealed land and was in the process of breaking through. Once his vain spirit transformed, he would step into the martial king realm. At that time, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. It was not something a martial king realm expert could compare with. Chapter 681. The entire ancient sky sect was shaken by this frightening aura. Everyone lifted their heads and looked at the main peak. What a terrifying aura! Is someone breaking through? The shadow of the golden rock and the mountain vein spirit seemed to be related to martial Uncle Du. Could it be that martial Uncle Du caused such a terrifying commotion? The golden light in the sky dispersed the darkness. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was as if the heavens and earth were in turmoil. Under the gazes of countless people, the enormous golden-winged rock silhouette suddenly disappeared. After which, a figure wrapped in golden light quietly appeared on top of the huge golden five-fingered mountain peak. The figure appeared silently. Although it was illusory, one could still see that it was tall and straight. There was a pair of golden rune wings on its back. It was like a rock flapping its wings. The figure could be vaguely seen. It was Du Xiaofu's shadow. His body released a boundless and domineering aura. It was as if he was going to soar into the sky. The tall figure stepped on the five-finger mountain. Golden light shone as if it was a miracle. A supreme aura spread out and suppressed the heavens and earth. At this moment, the phantom of the golden mountain connected with the surrounding mountains and earth for no reason. Golden talisman runes flickered as it connected with the mountain range. Rumble. Even the sky was trembling because of it. The phantom of the five-finger mountain continued to evolve and rearrange itself. Finally, it was powerful to the extreme. A new and powerful aura suddenly spread out from the illusory figure. The aura was extremely powerful. It swept across the sky and stepped into a new level. Rumble. At this moment, the rune wings on the back of the tall figure flashed. It was as if a real golden rock had descended. Its eyes opened and shot out golden light. It was as if two suns were shining in the sky and overlooking the heavens and earth. The domineering aura caused the space to rumble. Waves of air surged into the sky. It was as if it wanted to turn the heavens and earth upside down. The domineering energy fluctuation was like a sea. It was like a golden rainbow in the sky. The runes surged, causing the mountains in the ancient heavens sect to rumble. He has stepped into the martial king realm. As they sensed this overbearing and powerful aura, the eyes of the elders and protectors on the entire main peak emitted numerous low murmurs that were filled with shock. That's martial Uncle Du, he's breaking through. Martial Uncle Du has broken through to the martial king realm. When martial Uncle Du was at the complete martial lord realm, he could already defeat the young lady, who was at the nirvana realm. Now that he has broken through to the martial king realm, how terrifying is his strength. Within the ancient heaven sect, countless disciples looked at the tall and straight golden figure on the phantom of the five-finger mountain in the distance, trembling and prostrating. The domineering aura, causing the heavens and earth shook heaven. At this moment, many hidden auras from the depths of the ancient heaven sect spied over, and they didn't disperse for a long time. The terrifying aura rippled and then gradually disappeared under countless trembling gazes. The golden light dissipated and the entire world returned to the night sky. The cloud sky, the moon was sky. Stars moon heaven earth god moon. What's going on? A look of surprise flashed across everyone's eyes. When the heavens and earth rock disappeared, many disciples, whose martial souls were greatly affected, were able to slowly stand up. In the vast space, the runes turned into a golden-winged rock. The supreme aura spread out. Du Xiaofu felt that the supreme golden-winged rock had turned into a rune again. It fell directly on his mind and connected with his soul and blood. Du Xiaofu felt that he had become a real golden-winged rock at this moment. He was comprehending and capturing everything about the golden-winged rock. All this made Du Xiaofu's mind move. He was like a real golden-winged rock soaring in the sky, comprehending the supreme golden-winged rock's beast energy. In the vast hall, Du Xiaofu stood quietly. At this moment, a strange scene appeared on his body. On the ancient stone platform, the pair of golden-winged rock was directly connected to Du Xiaofu. It spread its wings and merged perfectly with Du Xiaofu. It was as if it was born on Du Xiaofu's back. It was perfect and natural. On the golden-winged rock, golden runes turned into a vortex. They revolved around Du Xiaofu. The golden runes kept changing. Finally, they arranged themselves and merged into Du Xiaofu's body, breaking through to the martial king realm and obtaining the golden-winged rock. This kid has obtained another great opportunity. Zhen Qingchuan's voice echoed out from within the pagoda. He was well aware of what was going on. Du Xiaofu had once again acquired a monstrous opportunity in the sealed region. He seems to have awakened. Suddenly, Zhen Qingchun seemed to have sensed something. The aura of his primordial spirit was immediately withdrawn into the small pagoda. In the hall, the old man in golden robes, who had been sitting cross-legged, suddenly had the golden light around him become more and more intense. Then, it gradually disappeared. The aura in his body was like a ferocious bird awakening. It was like a giant beast awakening from hibernation. In an instant, it spread throughout the entire hall. Walala, the golden light converged and flowed into Du Xiaofu's body. Then, the mysterious aura disappeared. Only the golden-winged rock on his back remained. It was still spreading the aura of a supreme being. Boom! After a long time, Du Xiaofu opened his tightly shut eyes. The golden light in his eyes shot out like two golden thunderbolts. It shot into the hall. A terrifying aura swept out from his body, shaking the entire hall. Initial martial king realm, feeling the changes in his body, the profound qi in the divine watchtower surged. The phantom of a five-fingered mountain guarded the divine watchtower, absorbing the pure profound qi to nourish it. The mighty aura fluctuated, as if it could pierce through space and kill a king with a raise of its hand. At this moment, Du Xiaofu knew that he had finally broken through to the initial level of the martial king realm. It could be said that he had stepped into the ranks of the martial king realm. Walala, the wings on his back flapped. Du Xiaofu peaked with his mind. The golden-winged rock on the ancient stone platform had actually merged with him and landed on his body. It was natural, as if it was born. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The golden-winged rock was not the rock descending to the ninth heaven rune wings that he had condensed. This was the real golden-winged rock. Its power was supreme, and it was incomparably domineering. It was enough to sweep away everything. Could it be? Du Xiaofu guessed that the golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy that he had comprehended came from this pair of golden-winged rock's wings. That was why he was able to obtain this pair of golden-winged rock's wings. From the golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy that he had comprehended, Du Xiaofu could easily feel that the supreme beast energy was incomparably domineering and shocking. However, it was not the entire beast energy. It was only a part of it. The golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy on the golden-winged rock's wings was only a small part of it. Perhaps the complete golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy was in the golden-winged rock's bones or other parts of its body. Initial martial king realm, and your aura is comparable to a complete martial king realm expert. You obtained the golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy and obtained the golden-winged rock's supreme beast energy. Good lad, this great opportunity has actually landed on you. The vicissitude and domineering voice resounded, echoing within the hall. At this moment, Du Xiaofu realized that there was a third person in the hall. He immediately looked over and saw an old man in a golden robe, who was over 50 years old. His eyes flickered with golden light, as if he was an overlord, and he was staring at him. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. The old man's aura seemed to be somewhat similar to his own. There was an invisible connection between them. However, the aura was as vast as the sea. The more he felt it, the more vast it was. It was like a black hole that could devour his mind. The old man in the golden robe had a pair of golden eyes. They were sharp and intimidating. When one looked at them, one's mind and soul would collapse. Expert, this is a super expert. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. This old man was definitely the strongest expert that he had seen so far. His aura was too terrifying. Then, Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on a badge on the old man's shoulder. That was the badge of the Ancient Heaven sect. It proved that this old man was also from the Ancient Heaven sect. Could it be that ancestor expert? Du Xiaofu immediately thought of a person. Sect Master Sima Taxing had told his master that a Manchu expert had entered the sealed land for the second time and hadn't appeared for dozens of years. Perhaps it was this person. Disciple Du Xiaofu greets the ancestor. After the initial shock, Du Xiaofu immediately bowed. This old man should be the expert from the Ancient Heaven sect who had entered the sealed land and didn't come out. There shouldn't be anyone else in the sealed land. No need for formalities. Whose disciple are you? The old man in the golden robe smiled and sized up Du Xiaofu. An invisible aura fluctuated, revealing an unconcealable domineering and sharp aura. Disciple's master is Elder Gu Qingyang. Du Xiaofu raised his head and replied to the old man in the golden robe. Gu Qingyang. I didn't expect that little guy to have taken in such a disciple. Hearing this, the old man in the golden robe smiled. Then, he asked Du Xiaofu, do you know who I am? Disciple doesn't know. But sect master and master asked me to come and find a Manchu ancestor who was trapped in the sealed land. Du Xiaofu replied. Ha, those little guys are really thoughtful. The old man in the golden robe laughed. His golden robe fluttered slightly. He looked at Du Xiaofu and asked in confusion, the seal I placed outside is still there. How did you come in? Even with your current strength, I'm afraid you can't break that seal. Disciple has some special means. After spending some time, I came in. Only then did Du Xiaofu know that the seal that blocked the palace on the mountain peak was actually placed by the old man in the golden robe. I've finally broken through to the martial king realm. Chapter 682. Looks like you have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. Being able to obtain the golden wings of the rock is not something ordinary people can do. The aura on your body is no different from that of a real golden-winged rock. Did you obtain the opportunity of a golden-winged rock in the past? The golden-robed elder asked Du Xiaofu. He felt that the aura on Du Xiaofu's body was similar to that of a real golden-winged rock, which made him puzzled. It was extremely difficult for normal people to get the golden rock's wings. He tried twice for more than 100 years but he still didn't get it. Du Xiaofu nodded. I got something from the golden rock in the past, so I comprehended the golden rock's beast energy and became closer to it. So that's how it is. Everything is fate. Now that the golden rock's wings are in your hands, it means that your fate is not shallow. The old man smiled and looked at Du Xiaofu. He continued, when I was young, I was unruly. I comprehended the golden rock's beast energy and people called me the golden rock. My real name is Sima Yaokong. Your master Gu Qingyang is my martial nephew. You can call me Grandmaster. Greetings, Grandmaster. Du Xiaofu immediately bowed. He didn't expect the old man to be so senior. He was actually twice as senior as his master. He was the Grandmaster of Sima Taxing. No need for formalities. The golden rock Sima Yaokong waved his hand and signaled Du Xiaofu to rise. He smiled, you saved my life. I wanted to get the golden rock's wings but in the end, I was trapped. Just in case, I set up a seal outside to prevent people from disturbing me. Also, I knew that it would be difficult for people to get the golden rock's wings. Once they touched it, they would be killed. That was why I stopped the Manchu's disciples from coming in. But I didn't expect you to break through the seal, comprehend the golden winged rock's ability, obtain the golden winged rock's wings, and also save me. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to hold on for more than a few decades, and would have been destroyed by the golden-winged rock's wings. Du Xiaofu did not say anything after hearing what the Golden Rock King said. He was a little surprised. He did not expect there to be so many things involved. You've already obtained the Golden Rock Wings, and the outermost seal has already disappeared. You should leave now. I'm sure there will be people who are worried about you. I'll be in closed-door seclusion for a period of time. When the time comes, we'll naturally meet again. I hope that at that time, you'll have already advanced another step. However, you have to be careful. Unless it's absolutely necessary, it's best not to activate the Great Pen Golden Wings, so as to avoid attracting unexpected disaster. With that, the venerable Golden Rock, Sima Yao Kong, shook his sleeve and disappeared from the hall. Du Xiaofu stood there in a daze for a while. The golden wings of the great rock retracted and disappeared into his body, leaving no trace behind. Only a trace of a pair of wings was left on his back. It was like a mark of a living creature. The ark was moving, but no one could see it. Immediately after, his mind sank into his body and carefully felt the changes in his body. Du Xiaofu was even more satisfied. The divine gate was wide, and the meridian spirit was guarding the divine gate. The muscles in his body had also strengthened by a lot. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that if he fought with Sima Muhan now, perhaps he wouldn't have to struggle as much as last time. The Martial King realm and the Martial Lord realm were two completely different levels. The difference was too great. The peak of the Martial Lord realm and the beginning of the Martial King realm didn't seem to have much of a difference, but in reality, there was a huge gap. Most Martial Lord realm cultivators would find it difficult to step into the Martial King realm in their lifetime. That venerable golden rock, Sima Yao Kong, is quite powerful. He almost discovered my existence. Zhen Qingquan's voice came from the small pagoda. He said to Du Xiaofu, the pressure of the golden-winged great rock in this space has been removed. You have obtained the golden wings of the great rock. Sima Yao Kong is right, but you must be careful. Unless you have no other choice, it's better not to use the golden wings of the great rock so as to avoid attracting the jealousy of others and also avoid attracting the attention of the golden-winged great rock clan. If you are targeted by the golden-winged great rock clan, you will be in big trouble. Du Xiaofu nodded. He understood the reason. If the golden-winged great rock clan discovered that he had the golden wings of the great rock, they would naturally not let it go. And if outsiders knew that he had such a treasure like the golden wings of the great rock, it would be enough to cause countless experts to covet and fight for it. At that time, one could imagine the danger and trouble he would face. After tidying up, Du Xiaofu left the main hall. When he left the bottomless abyss and arrived at the main peak of the ancient heaven sect outside, Du Xiaofu saw many elders and protectors on the main peak, as well as the sect master, Sima Taxing, and his master, Elder Gu Qingyang. Whoosh whoosh, as Du Xiaofu rushed out of the bottomless abyss and landed on the mountain peak, many shocked and surprised gazes fell on Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, are you all right? Elder Gu Qingyang immediately rushed up when he saw his beloved disciple. He carefully examined Du Xiaogang and only let out a sigh of relief when he saw that Du Xiaogang was in good condition. Master, I'm fine. Du Xiaofu said. Looking at the old man in front of him, warmth crept into his heart. Come, let's talk in the main hall. Sima Taxing nodded to Du Xiaofu. He restrained some fluctuations in his eyes, and then said to the elders and protectors beside him, Elders and protectors, let's go together. Perhaps everyone wants to know what happened. In the night, everyone entered the main hall. In the main hall, Du Xiaofu roughly explained the situation in the sealed space to everyone. However, Du Xiaofu did not mention a word about the golden wings of the great rock. Naturally, he would not mention the elixirs and spiritual swords inside. As for the benefits inside, Du Xiaofu also secretly revealed that it was obtained by the Honorable Golden Rock, Sima Yaokong's grandmaster. The many elders and protectors did not have any doubts. Many of the elders and protectors were unaware of what had happened in the sealed land. At this time, after hearing Du Xiaofu's words, everyone understood that there was such a sealed space under the main peak. Many elders and protectors were originally wondering why Du Xiaofu did not enter the secret land for closed-door practice with Sima Muhan, Xu Yang, and others for half a year. It turned out that this guy secretly went to the sealed space. Du Xiaofu, did you break through to the initial martial king realm in the sealed space? Elder Hu Sankuan asked Du Xiaofu. His gray beard moved slightly, and there were ripples in his eyes. Du Xiaofu, who was in the completion martial marquis realm, was already so terrifying. How powerful would he be when he stepped into the initial martial king realm? Du Xiaofu nodded his head. There was nothing to hide, as he said to Elder Hu Sankuan, I've received some benefits from the place of the seal, which allowed me to rank up to the martial emperor realm. Phew! Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, many elders and protectors could not help but roll their eyes at Du Xiaofu. Everyone present was a cunning old fox. Naturally, they could tell that Du Xiaofu said it lightly. If he wanted to break through to the martial king realm, it would not be ordinary benefits. What's more, when Du Xiaofu broke through, it caused such a commotion in the outside world. It was as if a god had come to the mortal world. How terrifying was that? This guy must have gotten some amazing benefits, but he was unwilling to say it. Then, they talked about some things in the sealed space. Many elders and protectors left under Sima Taxing's signal. In the end, only Du Xiaofu, Elder Gu Qingyang, and Sima Taxing were left in the main hall. Xiaofu, is there anything else you haven't said? Sima Taxing asked Du Xiaofu. He felt that Du Xiaofu seemed to have some reservations in the presence of many elders and protectors. Du Xiaofu smiled and was quite surprised. It seemed that this senior brother was not an ordinary person. Then, he nodded and told Sima Taxing and his master Gu Qingyang about the golden rock wings. There were many elders and protectors in the hall, so it was not good to disclose this matter. The golden rock wings. It turns out that there are real golden rock wings in the sealed space. No wonder, although Sima Taxing was surprised, he was not too surprised. Xiaofu, before you came out, your grandmaster had already come out and sent a message to me and your master. Elder Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu, this time, you helped your grandmaster escape from danger. It can be considered a great contribution to the sect. If there's anything you want to reward, just tell your senior brother sect master. I believe your senior brother sect master won't refuse you. This, hearing Elder Gu Qingyang's words, Sima Taxing's face suddenly showed some helplessness. He looked at Elder Gu Qingyang and smiled bitterly. He knew that this martial uncle was fighting for benefits for his disciple. He was really protective of his disciple everywhere. Disciple has opened a world pavilion in the Manchu. Master, please give me half of the profit. Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that his master was making things easy for him. Naturally, he climbed up the pole. It would be a waste if he did not take the benefits. Just this. Sima Taxing was puzzled. He knew Du Xiaofu's character very well. He originally thought that Du Xiaofu would ask for a lot. Maybe he would ask for a few Dao tools or even more. With Elder Gu Qingyang, who he had to give face to, it would be difficult for him to refuse even if he was the master. However, Sima Taxing didn't expect that Du Xiaofu would only ask for this. A world pavilion was just a small matter. Sima Taxing thought that this kid had been cultivating desperately. He probably didn't have time to make any big moves. The world pavilion didn't sell anything to the outside world. It was just selling to the Manchu disciples. The Manchu didn't take half of the profit. It only took the rent of the shop. The rent might be an astronomical figure for ordinary people. Even ordinary inner sect disciples couldn't afford it. However, compared to the entire ancient heaven sect, it was just a drop in the ocean. Xiaofu, you can think about it again. Elder Gu Qingyang was also puzzled and reminded Du Xiaofu again. Today's update is finished. Tomorrow, I will repay the chapters 1 the brothers from a few days ago. Chapter 683. Elder Gu Qingyang originally wanted to take advantage of the opportunity for his disciple to get some benefits from the sect. With his disciple's character, he originally thought that Du Xiaofu would be merciless. When the time came, he would also be able to get a lot of benefits by saying a few words. Who would have thought that this time, Du Xiaofu would actually make such a small request, which made Elder Gu Qingyang very puzzled. Why did his disciple suddenly change his personality? I don't lack anything now. I just have this request. I hope senior brother sect master can agree to it. Du Xiaofu rubbed the back of his head and laughed. He had obtained a lot of benefits from the sealed land. That half-magic treasure and many high-grade spirit herbs were all priceless. Especially the golden rock wings. That was an absolute treasure, so he couldn't ask for anything more. Du Xiaofu wasn't just casually saying that he wanted the Manchu to take less benefits from the World Pavilion. Although the World Pavilion hadn't made a name for itself in the Manchu, Du Xiaofu was still very confident in the future of the World Pavilion. The Ancient Sky Sect was fighting for the entire Ancient Sky Sect's territory in the Middle Continent. Du Xiaofu didn't want to let go of that huge market. It would be a good thing if he could get some benefits in advance. It would be difficult to get them in the future. That's not a problem. How about this? The Manchu will only take 1/5 of your World Pavilion's profits in the future. You can also choose a bigger shop in the outer sect. The rent will be waived. Sima Taxing nodded. There was nothing he couldn't agree to. Compared to a few Dao treasures, this request wasn't worth mentioning. However, Sima Taxing Xing did not know that it would not be long before he would be depressed for the rest of his life. If he had known earlier, he would not have agreed to Du Xiaofu's seemingly trivial request even if he was beaten to death. Who knew that the World Pavilion would become famous in the entire Middle Continent? The elixirs and cultivation resources of the World Pavilion would become something that the entire Middle Continent would fight over. Thank you, senior brother sect leader. Seeing Sima Taxing nod, Du Xiaofu immediately thanked him. After a while, when Du Xiaofu and Elder Gang Qingyang left the main hall, dawn had already arrived. World Pavilion, it seems a little familiar. Inside the main hall, Sima Taxing stood with his hands behind his back as he watched Du Xiaofu leave. He thought that some time ago, someone seemed to have mentioned the World Pavilion to him, but he didn't pay much attention to it at the time. For the past few months, he had been worried about the situation in the sealed land. He couldn't remember who had mentioned the World Pavilion before, so he left the hall. Early in the morning, the light of dawn gradually spread out. In an instant, the sun rose from the east, and the rosy clouds covered the mountains of the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu did not return to his residence first. Under his master, Elder Gu Qingyang's instructions, he had to cultivate properly. Then, he went to the outer sect's World Pavilion. In the early morning, the streets around the World Pavilion were much quieter and quieter. Many of the shops were still closed. In the World Pavilion, Gu Zhangyu was staring at the large and small shelves with a frown. The dazzling lineup of goods was extremely sparse at this time. There was nothing to sell at all. Sigh, even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. Gu Zhangyu sighed. The World Pavilion was doing well recently, but the supply of cultivation resources could not meet the demand. If this continued, the World Pavilion's reputation would plummet sooner or later. At that time, it would be much more difficult to restore its reputation. What are you sighing about? A voice sounded, and a figure silently appeared beside Gu Zhangyu. When Gu Zhangyu heard this, he immediately turned around and looked at the person behind him. He was wearing a purple robe and had a broad sword wrapped in purple cloth on his back. On his resolute face, his eyes were clear. Who else could it be but Du Xiaofu? President, you're here. Seeing Du Xiaofu's figure, Gu Zhangyu was extremely excited. How are the sales of the Profound Essence pills and Berserk pills? Du Xiaofu asked. He was also looking forward to the Berserk pills and Profound Essence pills that he had refined. He did not know how effective they were since he had not personally tested them yet. The Profound Essence pills and Berserk pills have long been sold out. At the mention of the Profound Essence pills and Berserk pills, Gu Zhangyou's eyes lit up. He told Du Xiaofu about how the Profound Essence pills and Berserk pills had been raised to more than 10 times the fixed price in the ancient Heaven sect's black market and how hard it was to get one. Gu Zhangyou also told Du Xiaofu about the World Pavilion situation in detail. It would not be long before the World Pavilion ran out of things to sell. Hearing Gu Zhangyou's words, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Looking at the sparse shelves in the World Pavilion, his clear eyes moved slightly. A moment later, he said to Gu Zhangyou, "Close the World Pavilion for a month." Close for a month? Hearing that, Gu Zhangyou was stunned. He did not understand. If there was nothing to sell, he was afraid of closing the World Pavilion. At that time, it would definitely have a huge impact on the World Pavilion's reputation. Close the World Pavilion for a month. We'll change to a bigger store. Du Xiaofu smiled. Previously, Senior Brother Sect Master had promised him that he could choose a bigger store, and he did not even need to collect rent. He also told Gu Zhangyou about this. Change to a bigger store, and Manchu won't even need to collect rent. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Gu Zhangyou was stunned. Then, his face was filled with shock, and finally, a smile appeared on his face. In this month, just renovate the new store. This way, it won't affect the World Pavilion's reputation. At the same time, spread the news that the World Pavilion will be selling the Profound Essence pills and Berserk pills in a month, Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Okay, I understand. Gu Zhangyou nodded. Renovate the new store and open for business in a month. In addition to selling the Berserk pills and Profound Essence pills, it would definitely not affect the World Pavilion's reputation. It would also solve the problem of the World Pavilion running out of goods. President, where are we going to look for cultivation resources in a month? We've thought of all the methods we can think of. Gu Zhangyou was still worried. Even after a month, the World Pavilion still wouldn't have any cultivation resources to sell. During this period of time, the World Society disciples had brought all the pills, spiritual equipment, and spiritual herbs that they did not use to the World Pavilion to sell. I'll think of a way. But for the next few days, get all the World Society disciples to go out and look for spiritual herbs. No matter what method you come up with, include all kinds of spiritual herbs from other stores. Buy as much as you can. Du Xiaofu said to Gu Zhangyou. President, buying spiritual herbs will require a large sum of money. The cultivation resources that the World Pavilion sold during this period of time all came from the World Society disciples. After selling them, most of them will go to the World Pavilion disciples. The rest will still need to be operated and paid for, so we don't have much money. Gu Zhangyou looked a little embarrassed. Although he could be considered to be in control of the entire World Pavilion, the truth was that the World Pavilion was embarrassingly short of money. I have some on me. Du Xiaofu was also rather helpless. Purchasing a large amount of spiritual herbs wasn't a small sum. He then said to Gu Zhangyou, also, look for the disciples of the World Society to borrow some spiritual herbs in my name. After a month, return them in full and pay the interest. That's a good idea. I'll give it a try. But many inner sect disciples are in seclusion in the ancient bronze space. The outer sect disciples probably don't have much money on them, Gu Zhangyou said. It should be enough. We don't need too much for now. Du Xiaofu nodded. Although the outer sect disciples' cultivation wasn't as strong as the inner sect disciples, they didn't necessarily have less money on them. One must know that the outer sect disciples all had the same family background. They definitely wouldn't be too shabby. I'll do it immediately. Gu Zhangyou nodded. He then raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said, "President, the price of the Xianyuan elixir and Berserker elixir has increased by more than 10 times. Should we increase the price of the elixir a month later?" Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. After thinking for a while, he smiled and looked at Gu Zhangyu. He said, "There's no need for that. But send out a notice. After a month, the Xianyuan elixir and Berserker elixir will be sold in limited quantities. Only the World Pavilion's VIPs will be able to buy them first." VIPs? Gu Zhangyu looked at Du Xiaofu with a slight change in his expression. Then, his eyes flickered as he asked, "President, are you saying that you want to develop the VIPs of the World Pavilion?" Du Xiaofu nodded and smiled. "From today onwards, as long as you become a VIPs of the World Pavilion, you will be able to enjoy the convenience and benefits of the World Pavilion. The more items you buy in the World Pavilion, the higher your VIP rank, and the more discounts and convenience you will enjoy. You will be able to pre-order the Berserker elixir and Xianyuan elixir. The higher your VIP rank, the more you will be able to pre-order the Berserker elixir and Xianyuan elixir." "I understand what President means." Gu Zhangyu's face was filled with excitement. He immediately understood what Du Xiaofu meant. This was clearly using the Xianyuan elixir and Berserker elixir to sell the cultivation resources of the World Pavilion. If one wanted to buy the Xianyuan elixir and Berserker elixir, they could only become a VIPs of the World Pavilion. This meant that they could only buy cultivation resources from the World Pavilion in the future. Chapter 684. The more cultivation resources one bought in World Pavilion, the higher the VIP rank, and the higher the chance of purchasing Xianyuan pills and Berserk pills. That way, World Pavilion's business would be booming. After discussing some trivial matters with Gu Zhangyu, Du Xiaofu left World Pavilion. That day, World Pavilion announced that they would be closing for a month and relocating shops. At the same time, they also announced that World Pavilion would be selling Xianyuan pills and Berserk pills again. During this 1 month, they could go to World Pavilion to apply for VIP membership for free. When they sold Berserk pills and Xianyuan pills, they could only satisfy World Pavilion's VIP members first. The higher the VIP rank, the higher the chance of purchasing Berserk pills and Xianyuan pills, and the more they could purchase. Otherwise, there would be a restriction on purchasing Berserk pills and Xianyuan pills. Each person could only purchase 1 pill in World Pavilion. World Pavilion would also accept spiritual herbs and refining materials. The more spiritual herbs and refining materials sold to World Club, the higher the VIP rank would be. When the news spread, a large number of disciples lined up to sell spiritual herbs and refining materials to World Pavilion. Since the price was the same as selling to others, it didn't matter where they sold. Since they could increase their VIP rank in World Pavilion, they naturally chose to sell to World Pavilion. Once the news spread, the Ancient Heaven sect was in an uproar. Some disciples were unhappy. They felt that World Pavilion was raising the price and kidnapping them to sell. It was very unkind. However, even more disciples of the Ancient Heaven sect flocked to the World Pavilion to become VIP members. Even the disciples who were cursing and swearing also lined up obediently at the side. At the same time, the World Club disciples who weren't cultivating in seclusion started to collect spiritual herbs and refining materials. Before the shops of the various factions could react, they had already collected a large number of spiritual herbs and refining materials. On the 3rd day, although the shops of the various factions didn't know what World Pavilion wanted to do, they had already started to organize themselves and stopped selling spiritual herbs and refining materials to World Pavilion. Because of World Pavilion's VIP member policy, the businesses of the various factions' shops plummeted. Some of the disciples who weren't in a hurry to purchase cultivation resources were waiting for the opening of the World Pavilion. That way, he would be able to raise his VIP membership level so that he could purchase Berserk pills and Black Essence pills. 3 days later, over 10 cosmos pouches filled to the brim with spiritual herbs, refining materials and other cultivation resources appeared in Du Xiaofu's hands. After that, Du Xiaofu returned to his nest. After setting up the array, he entered the ancient desolate space. Walala, all kinds of spirit herbs, refining materials, and cultivation resources piled up like a mountain were poured out of the Qiankuan bag. Inside the misty space, multicolored lights dazzled, energy fluctuations rippled, and medicinal fragrances filled the air. Luckily, Du Xiaoyao isn't here. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile as he looked at the mountain of spiritual herbs and refining materials in front of him. If Du Xiaoyao was here, who knew how much would be wasted? Brat, what are you doing with so many spirit herbs and refining materials? Zhen Qingquan's illusory body appeared in the misty ancient desolate space. Looking at the mountain of spiritual herbs in front of Du Xiaofu, he was also puzzled. With so many spirit herbs, even an ordinary 6-star alchemy talisman master wouldn't be able to refine all of them in a year. Refining elixirs and refining spiritual weapons. I'll refine whatever I can. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hands and shook them, making cracking sounds. What are you refining so many elixirs and spiritual weapons for? Zhen Qingquan asked Du Xiaofu curiously. To refine and sell them. It's also a good way to hone my skills in refining elixirs and refining spiritual weapons. Du Xiaofu told Zhen Qingquan the truth about the World Pavilion. It's good to hone your skills in refining elixirs and refining spiritual weapons. Zhen Qingquan nodded, glanced at Du Xiaofu, and said, You want to build your World Pavilion. You have a good starting point, and your ambition is big enough. But the most important thing is your own strength. Don't spend too much time on the World Pavilion. The most important thing for you now is to improve your cultivation and strength. Du Xiaofu nodded, and then looked at Zhen Qingquan with a faint smile, and said, Brother Qingquan, you seem to be recovering well now. It shouldn't be a problem for you to refine some low-grade elixirs, right? In your dreams. If others know that I helped you refine a big pot of elixirs and sell them, I won't be able to face anyone in the future. Zhen Qingquan glared at Du Xiaofu and refused without hesitation. Thinking back to when he was famous in the continent, he was so high and mighty. If others knew that he helped this brat refine a big pot of elixirs and sell them, he naturally wouldn't be able to face anyone in the future. In any case, no one will know, and I won't tell others. Du Xiaofu said with a grin, and without saying anything more, started to arrange all kinds of spiritual medicines and refining materials. Boom! Finally, Du Xiaofu made hand signs, and spiritual stoves and symbol cauldrons of 5 different attributes condensed, starting to refine spiritual medicines. Zhen Qingquan snorted, shooting a glance at Du Xiaofu, and said, With your current cultivation as a medicine symbol master, you should be able to refine ordinary pills in large quantities. Otherwise, I'm afraid that it would take you several years to refine them. Learn from them. Boom! Saying that, Zhen Qingquan's hand signs condensed, and the spiritual stoves and symbol cauldrons in front of him condensed. Ripples of aura whizzed out, and an incorporeal fluctuation of energy wrapped around a lot of spiritual medicines, which were thrown into the cauldrons. Du Xiaofu had a smiling expression, and copied Zhen Qingquan's actions, wrapping a large amount of spiritual medicines with energy and throwing them into the cauldrons. Flames surged out, starting to refine the spiritual medicines. Walala! In the misty space, the temperature of the space rose sharply, and the energy of spiritual medicines whizzed out. This time, Du Xiaofu planned to enter seclusion for close to a month. In the desolate ancient space, this was close to 10 months of time, and he would be able to properly refine pills and enhance his attainments in refining tools. The most important thing was that the World Pavilion needed a large amount of spiritual medicines and cultivation resources. Du Xiaofu knew that he could only rely on himself to prepare for this. Although the World Pavilion currently had a few spirit symbol masters, they were all outer sect disciples, and their cultivation was limited. In a month's time, they wouldn't be able to refine too many pills. As for the desolate ancient space, it was a matter of great importance, and Du Xiaofu didn't plan to tell others about it. This time, after breaking through to the Martial King realm, Du Xiaofu also planned to make some breakthroughs in the Spirit Symbol Master realm. He also didn't want to give up on refining pills and refining tools. Time passed slowly. As the news of the World Pavilion's Restoration Pill and Berserk Pill spread out in a month's time, many Muncha disciples were looking forward to it. However, this also caused many factions to be extremely dissatisfied, especially when the World Pavilion set up the VIP membership rule this time. It caused many faction leaders to meet frequently, as if they were secretly preparing to take action against the World Pavilion. During this time, the new World Pavilion also began to appear on the bustling streets. However, it was still closed, and the interior was undergoing intense renovations and decorations. However, one could tell that the location was extremely good, and the area was also very large, comparable to the shops of the largest factions. A month didn't take long, and the time for the World Pavilion to reopen was getting closer and closer. The date of the Restoration Pill and Berserk Pill's sale was getting closer and closer. In the entire Ancient Heaven sect, many disciples were already rubbing their hands, eager to buy a few pills. It was said that the World Pavilion's Restoration Pill and Berserk Pill wouldn't increase in price this time. If one could buy a few pills and resell them, it would be enough to make a huge profit. However, the World Pavilion's rule was that the average buyer could only buy one pill at a time. This caused many disciples who wanted to take advantage of the situation to have a headache. In the misty space, close to a month's time outside was close to 10 months inside the ancient desolate space. In the past 10 months, Du Xiaofu had been inside the ancient desolate space and hadn't come out. In the past 10 months, Du Xiaofu had been refining all kinds of pills, spiritual tools, and talisman weapons. When he was tired, he would adjust his breathing. After recovering, he would immediately refine pills. It could be said that in the past 10 months, Du Xiaofu's alchemy skills had improved by leaps and bounds. No amount of improvement could be as fast as practice. This saying wasn't false at all. Under Zhen Qingquan's dumbfounded gaze, Du Xiaofu had been able to refine large batches of noble-grade pills in the past few months. There were many varieties and dazzling lineups. Moreover, the quality of the pills was extremely high. Refining pills in large cauldrons was especially strict on one's soul power. The stronger the spiritual power, the more pills could be refined. When Du Xiaofu was able to refine more than 30 middle-grade Nirvana realm pills in one go, Zhen Qingquan had already stopped talking. Under the refining of Zhen Qingquan and Du Xiaofu, the mountainous pile of spiritual herbs was completed in less than 5 months. In the process, Zhen Qingquan also tried his best to guide Du Xiaofu in refining pills. However, in the end, Zhen Qingquan realized that he couldn't guide him anymore. That kid had already learned most of his skills as a talisman master. The only thing left was the depth of his skills. Chapter 685. All the spiritual medicine, including the large amount of high-grade spiritual medicine from the sealed land, had been refined. Du Xiaofu used the remaining time to refine spiritual weapons and talisman weapons. Zhen Qingquan could not help him much in terms of being a talisman master. Du Xiaofu could only understand the secret weapon manual left behind by his master, the honored weapon master, and start refining. With his previous experience, Du Xiaofu was able to refine talisman weapons smoothly. In the end, he was able to successfully refine talisman weapons. Rumble. During this period of time, the energy in the ancient barren space fluctuated continuously. Elixirs, talisman weapons, and talisman weapons were successfully refined by Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu used the secret weapon manual left behind by his master, the honored weapon master, to refine talisman weapons and talisman weapons. In terms of materials and refining techniques, there were many differences compared to normal talisman masters. Especially for talisman weapons and talisman weapons, Du Xiaofu infused beast energy into them and increased their power by a lot. In the end, Du Xiaofu also studied the body armor, shields, and other kinds of unorthodox spiritual tools. He made a lot of experimental products, but the results were not bad. All-rounder. This guy is an all-rounder. How can there be such a monster in this world? Zhen Qingchun exclaimed. He glanced at Du Xiaofu, who was surrounded by a white divine light. He could only sigh. Not only was he abnormal in martial arts, he was also proficient in elixirs, weapon refinement, and even his attainments in talisman arrays had long surpassed his peers. This kind of person was called an all-rounder. He was also proficient in all kinds of techniques. Such a terrifying person could only be called a monster. If this spread out, many people would be shocked. In the misty space, the surrounding space fluctuated. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. The white divine light around him was dazzling. Waves of ancient aura spread out, causing people's hearts to ripple. This guy, is he going to break through again? Sensing the aura fluctuations around Du Xiaofu's body, Zhen Qingchuan's eyes flickered as he muttered softly, "Looks like you've gained a lot of benefits in these 10 months. In the space, Du Xiaofu's spiritual energy spread out. The white light was dazzling. Under the help of the mysterious weapon manual, his aura kept rising. Rumble. After an unknown period of time, Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace suddenly emitted a strong wave of energy, and a dazzling white light spread out. An ancient aura fluctuation suddenly spread out from within his body like a storm. Whoosh, his aura continued to rise. Suddenly, he broke through an invisible barrier and stepped into a new height. The spirit's spiritual soul, spirit's mind. The spirit's mind. Spirits in, spirit. Spirit of mind. He has reached the level of a 6-star mysterious weapon master. What a powerful spiritual soul spirit. This guy is a monster. Zhen Qingchun was shocked. Feeling the spiritual soul spirit in Du Xiaofu's body, he stared in shock. The spiritual soul spirit was many times more powerful than that of an ordinary 6-star mysterious weapon master. Moreover, the ancient and domineering aura made it impossible for an ordinary person's spirit to resist. After a long time, everything calmed down. Du Xiaofu's eyelashes moved slightly. Then, he opened his eyes. The light in his eyes was dazzling. It didn't disperse for a long time. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Finally, 6-star mysterious weapon master. Du Xiaofu murmured. He could clearly feel that the spiritual soul spirit's mind palace was many times more powerful than before. He had finally reached the level of a 6-star mysterious weapon master. Du Xiaofu wasn't surprised by the breakthrough this time. It had been a long time since he had broken through to the 6-star mysterious weapon master. If it wasn't for the fact that he hadn't broken through to the martial king realm, he would have broken through to the talisman Dao long ago. This time, when he was in seclusion to refine elixirs and forge weapons, his spiritual soul spirit had been exhausted and recovered more than 10 times. This was also the opportunity for this breakthrough. He had also stepped into the 6-star mysterious weapon master. Feeling the surging spiritual soul energy in the Naiwen Palace in his mind, Du Xiaofu had a feeling that if he were to activate the mysterious soul pupil now, the power would definitely reach an extremely powerful level. It would be enough to cause an ordinary martial king of the Nirvana realm to fall into it if they were careless. 6-star mysterious weapon master. The breakthrough isn't slow. What do you plan to do next? Zhen Qingchuan's primordial spirit's body stepped forward and looked at Du Xiaofu. He sized him up. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a monster in this world. Crack, he stood up and stretched his body. His bones and joints crackled as he felt the carefree feeling that came from the breakthrough in his body. Together with a mouthful of turbid air that followed along his throat, there was an indescribable carefree feeling all over his body. He then said to Zhenqing Chun, "It should be about time. Let's go and sell the elixirs and weapons first." Zhenqing Chun glanced at Du Xiaofu and said to Du Xiaofu, "Don't reveal the elixir recipes of the Xianyuan elixir and Berserk elixir. It took me a lot of effort to get them. When there's time, I'll tell you a few special elixir recipes. Don't worry." A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. The elixir recipes of the Xianyuan elixir and Berserk elixir were extraordinary. Naturally, he couldn't reveal them so easily. Seeing Du Xiaofu's smile, Zhenqing Chun glanced at Du Xiaofu and said with disdain, "The ancient sky sect has quite a few extraordinary methods. If you have time, you should go in and take a look. The ancient sky sect has quite a few trump cards. Don't miss it." Du Xiaofu nodded. After packing up, he left the ancient desolate space. It was noon outside. After Du Xiaofu left his nest, he went directly to the New World Pavilion in the outer sect. He was filled with anticipation for the New World Pavilion. When Du Xiaofu arrived at the New World Pavilion, Gu Zhangyu didn't disappoint him. The New World Pavilion's decorations were extremely grand. The area wasn't small, and it had a total of 3 floors. The first floor was the main hall, the second floor sold high-grade elixirs and talisman weapons, and the third floor was the VIP room. On the third floor, Gu Zhangyu said to Du Xiaofu, "President, the decorations cost quite a bit of money, but the effect is pretty good." "It's pretty good. Thank you for your hard work." Du Xiaofu patted Gu Zhangyu's shoulder. It had indeed been hard on Gu Zhangyu recently. "It's not hard at all. Thank you, President, for your high regard." Gu Zhangyu smiled. Although it was hard, he was extremely satisfied. This was the President's high regard for him. Everything was handed to him. Now, in the entire Manchu, he could be considered a person with a little face. "Sect Master, there are 2 more days before our World Pavilion opens again. I wonder if the President has already prepared the cultivation resources?" Gu Zhangyu asked Du Xiaofu. This was the question he was most worried about for the past month. "It's all prepared. Although it's not much, it's enough to support us for a period of time." Du Xiaofu handed over several qiankuan pouches that he had already prepared to Gu Zhangyu and said, "Next, think of a way to find more talisman masters to join us." Gu Zhangyu received the qiankuan pouches with a joyful expression. He felt that there should be a lot of cultivation resources in the qiankuan pouches. At the same time, he said to Du Xiaofu in a serious tone, "There aren't many talisman masters in the Manchu to begin with, especially the talisman masters and talisman masters. The stronger ones have already been roped in by the major powers. It won't be easy to get them to join us. I'll think of a way." Du Xiaofu also knew how difficult it would be. There weren't many talisman masters in the ancient heaven sect to begin with, and they had already been roped in by the major powers. Naturally, it wouldn't be easy to get them to join the world society. However, the World Pavilion couldn't possibly rely on themselves to refine pills and spiritual artifacts. Although there were a few talisman masters and talisman masters in the world society, their cultivation levels weren't high enough to support the World Pavilion's needs. Moreover, the most important thing for every talisman master and talisman master was their own cultivation. They couldn't possibly refine pills for the World Pavilion all the time. This made Du Xiaofu rather concerned about this matter. If he roped in a talisman master and talisman master, the World Pavilion would still be in danger and wouldn't be able to truly grow. "President, recently, there have been some disciples looking for me, hoping to purchase profound essence pills and berserk pills in advance. However, I'm worried that there won't be enough profound essence pills and berserk pills to deal with the queue outside, so I didn't dare to agree first," Gu Zhangyu said to Du Xiaofu. "No problem. There are a total of 200 berserk pills and 200 profound essence pills in the qiankuan pouches. Take out 100 profound essence pills and berserk pills each to satisfy the disciples in the society first. Just sell them at half price. Du Xiaofu nodded. 200 profound essence pills and berserk pills. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Gu Zhangyu was stunned. He knew that Du Xiaofu must have been refining berserk pills and profound essence pills in the past month. However, Gu Zhangyu didn't expect Du Xiaofu to refine so many pills in a month. 200 berserker pills and profound essence pills. What a terrifying number this was. Gu Zhangyu naturally didn't know that Du Xiaofu had been in the ancient desolate space for 10 months. Most importantly, there were experts like Zhen Qingchun helping to refine the pills. Although Zhen Qingchun was refining pills in the form of a primordial spirit, it was still easy for him to refine them in large batches. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.